Welcome to the Wrestling Fan, a wrestling show. I'm the Big Beefy Bai, Shaz Beef, one half of the old Bucks, and today I'm joined by none of the usual marks. They're all being dickheads, but who's not being a dickhead is this gentleman, Mr. Darren Burns, Burnsy, the working name. You're the star of the hurler.
Kid Crazy, Dano Burns, Xavier Burns. Yeah, so I've had a few gimmicks over the years.
Yeah, so former professional wrestler, and I say former in the sense that we can't talk you out of retirement.
No, I'm done. I'm at peace. We
met on the set of The Hurler.
Yeah,
the film, and you came with a costume.
Yes.
That was like going to be your next gimmick before you decided.
That was the plan, and the reason why I did that is kind of like I wanted to wear a mask and kind of hide my identity while I was going to brush off some ring rust.
Yeah.
And I went to Mexico, and I really wanted to get into this character.
It's fucking mad, Mexico, man.
Yeah, well, that was. You could basically say I kind of had my last match in Mexico, basically. So, not a bad little
last match so far.
Career. So, well, no.
Let's kind of go back anyway in terms of starting up wrestling, because I started in around 2008. Yeah. You started in 2007, just the year before. I went with IWW.
Yeah, and I went with NW Ireland. And the only reason I went with NW Ireland was, at the time, you see, in Waterford, Irish Whip Wrestling were putting on the Whiplash TV tapings.
Yeah, it was on the wrestling channel.
It was so good. And
they were down the forum?
Yeah, that's what it was. And that's where, you see, I never thought that becoming a professional wrestler was a thing. So when I was a kid growing up watching professional wrestling, it was never in my head going, I'm going to be a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
It was more of a, okay, I'm going to be a backyard wrestler.
Yeah.
That's as good as it's going to get.
Did you do backyard wrestling?
Oh, I probably put more effort into that than I did in the professional career.
Really?
Yeah, I loved it. Because there was no... I didn't know any different. I was literally... And I love the creativeness of it. I love having my own roster and creating my own storylines. And
did you have your own company?
Yeah. I was the one who made it up, So it all came about, I think it was around secondary school. And I just decided to do it one day in someone's backyard, and it just kind of snowballed to the point where, right, I want to take it from the garden or the backyard and let's rent a unit. So rented a unit. Luckily, the actual school I went to gave us old blue mats.
Oh, class.
Not the crash mats, but
don't kind of paralyze yourself, boys.
Yeah. Well, they didn't really know what we were doing.
Do it safely.
Yeah. So we actually rented a room in Tyker in Waterford, a tiny little room. But we made something out of it, that kind of way. So we used to go shoot the show on a Tuesday, and we had a guy called Gary Keneally, who's now a filmmaker, director, producer, writer, great guy. And he was able to shoot the footage, edit the footage, and get it up on Thursday. So we called the show Thursday Night Justice. I don't even know why we called it that, but that was the name of the show. But maybe nobody watched it, but to us, we were light years ahead of what anyone else was doing in that respect,
in terms of the actual wrestling, I find, even though I've been watching wrestling for so long, some of the moves you're like, even like a blind feed going into a scoop slam and that kind of thing. Some of the little intricacies of wrestling you wouldn't pick up on when you're doing your backyard stuff. Did any of that matter? Or no?
It was just pure messy and slappy carnage. Yeah. Dangerous, really dangerous. Me, myself now, I like to stay, because it's funny, because when I got into professional wrestling, I kind of like doing more the gimmick matches and that kind of stuff. But when I was doing backyard wrestling, I wanted to stay as safe as possible. But I was making other lads do thumbtacks and ladders. And
no way.
And they were all, they were up for it. Yeah.
But the power of just having a video camera, because there's no mobile phones that can shoot accurate, good footage.
Yeah. And we probably wouldn't have done it if we didn't have, access to a camera.
Yeah, we were the same. We did Jackass, and we called it Jackass. Yeah. So we were just doing stunts. It's just so happened that none of my friends like wrestling, so I couldn't do wrestling. Every now and again, I'd get plasterboard from a building site, and you'd use that as your tables, and you'd whack each other over the head, and you'd have it maybe a match, and then your mum comes out and goes, "Why are all the mattresses out on the decking?" And then you're banned from watching wrestling.
Well, similar enough to that, before I did all the wrestling, we did the same thing. We were doing a Jackass video, because I'd say about 80% of my friends were not into wrestling.
Yeah.
That kind of way. So I was always kind of a lone wrestling fan, and I didn't really have anyone to kind of chit chat about it or get into it. Now, granted, you'd have pay-per-views back in the day where my friends would come over and we'd all get cans and stuff. But they were there for the cans, not the wrestling.
How did that then? How long did this company go for? What was it?
Oh, well, I started in 2003. And then I finished up in 2008. I finished up. The reason why it finished is because one night we had an event, and two of the lads got seriously injured, and I just said, you know what? And at the time, we were after moving from the Tyker place we were renting into the Waterford bowling alley. So, you know, the old skating rink upstairs.
Yeah.
So, because I was working there at the time, the manager was, you know, he was sound enough to go, look, if you really want to do it, you can go up and do it. But look, kind of any injuries, you have to be careful and behind closed doors. And there was one night then we were kind of having this kind of a big show, you know. And
are there people attending the show, or is it just yourselves?
Well, I was trying to get people in, but people that we knew. I wasn't open to the public. I was trying to get just as background noise. You know, not kind of make it to look like, you know, there's someone there.
I know,
you know, that kind of,
because you feel like a superstar, especially at that age. Like.
Yeah. So the first match, there was a table match, and we used to use a laminated floor in Lidl. So once that laminated floor goes down, one of the lads went down on it. He was wearing shorts, and it sliced his calf so cleanly that you can literally see the inside of his leg. But it didn't bleed. There was no blood. It was literally the cleanest cut ever.
So shocked.
Yeah. So at the time I was driving, I was just after starting driving, so I was like, right, well, I'll drop him to the hospital and we'll get back and we'll continue on with the show. So the next match then, one of the lads...
Continue with the show.
Yeah.
In front of your...
The show must go on. But, so the next match then... one of the lads, he was doing was it an Inseguri? And it just destroyed his elbow. And then after that, then another lad then did a frog splash off the barrier, broke his elbow. So we had 3 guys in the hospital.
3 literally top stars out.
Top stars out. So I was like, you know what? It's time to call it. And even I got loads of advice off, you know, people who weren't in it. Like, Darren, it all comes back to you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's no insurance. Like, at the end of the day, it's all back. And then on top of that, we were in Leisure Zone, which is the bowling alley.
Yeah.
It's on their premises.
Yeah.
You know, so I was thinking to myself, right, I think it's time I give this professional wrestling a go then.
Yeah, well, like, there's dicking about with your mates, and then there's like, oh, fuck, we're getting seriously hurt here. Do you... Like, you obviously didn't pay any stock or any heat to don't try this at home, that kind of stuff.
No, that actually fueled me to do it more. Like, if they're telling me to do something...
Did you kind of catch any flack from lads getting injured, or was it kind of acknowledged that, look, we wanted to do this?
Yeah, well, I didn't force anyone to do anything. Yeah. You know, that kind of way. And like, that's the bottom line, isn't it? Like, you know?
So when you then made the transition to, say, starting training, did you have... Maybe, I don't know why you're like this, so this is, but because you had that experience since 2003 of wrestling and, you know, you're making your own shows and all that, did you come in even somewhat arrogant, or were you coming in like going, this is so new to me, like as a newbie, or? I
wouldn't say arrogant, but I was definitely fearless, completely fearless, because what happened was I was kind of planning this move to professional wrestling and giving it a go, and I was trying to convince all the guys that I was doing the backyard wrestling with to come do it with me.
Yeah.
And then in my head I was saying, oh look, you do this big storyline, we're after invading you know, the professional wrestling world.
You're booking it already.
Yeah, you know, that kind of way. So literally the week after I did my leaving cert in May 2007, NW Ireland were hosting a 2-day camp, which is what they used to do back then. So, you know, you'd go up on the Saturday morning, you train all day, you stay in the gym that night, you get up on the next morning, you train all day, and then they do a show.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously then if you're good enough, you'll get picked to go on the show. So that was my first experience of going up there. I never forget that weekend walking through them doors and just the ring, just everything about it.
The sound of it.
Yeah.
I said it to the boys that John and don't feel like this. The first time you hear... Even just as a fan, when you hear that up close,
it's so loud, isn't it?
It's sick. Who was the trainers?
Well, at the time, it was like, well, Phil was after taking it over. Phil Boyd.
Oh, Phil Boyd.
Yeah,
sorry.
Phil Boyd. Yeah, so he was kind of the main trainer up there. But like, you had like Jordan, Paddy Morrow. I think Paddy Morrow was still there. Yeah, like Robbie Morrissey was there. Maxer. You know, like Phil. Or sorry, Justy, Danny the Beast Butler. Like this. Unbelievably amount of crazy Irish talent, like.
And you said Finn as in Finn Balor.
Well, at the time he was in Japan.
He was set it up, yeah.
He was set it up with Paul, I think, back in 2003 or 4.
Yeah.
So Paul was still there, still getting involved, but he was kind of looking after the advanced lads.
Tracy, yeah.
Yeah. So and Fergal was in Japan, and Fergal used to pop in and out. I only seen him a few times, but even when he used to pop in and out the training, I was kind of in awe because I was a massive fan of Fergal David. You know, when he was in Japan. And I thought that his wrestling, I used to love showing his matches to people who didn't like wrestling, and they would go, wow, this guy
is from Ireland.
Phenomenal. He's from Bray, County Wicklow, Ireland. Most people don't even believe me until he talks. You know, oh yeah, there's the accent. You know?
Yeah. So you're going into the first day training. Was it tough? Like in terms of, you know, because back then when I went to it, there was still this kind of mentality, and I went to IWW, but there was a bit of a mentality of like, oh, you take your bumps on, like, you don't even take them in the ring, you take them on the hard mats.
Yeah, that mentality was still there. With NW Ireland as well, it was kind of a shooter mentality where, you know, even an hour out of the training, we would all shoot. You know, that kind of way. You're just all in a circle, everybody jump in, try and tap out your opponent. But it was a lot more gritty, I think. And I enjoyed it because I wanted to be tested. I wanted to be busted up, broken up, you know, that kind of, because that's what I felt like.
Do you think that was a negative, though, for, say...
Depends on your...
Irish wrestling, considering, you know, you're closing off actual wrestling to people if you're doing these not physically demanding things, but you know, if you're making someone tap out and they're like, oh,
I think things have changed as well because from a financial perspective, where some of these schools wouldn't survive without people. So now it's kind of open to everybody, and you know, it's a different time now. You know, and it's probably better, in the long run. But I think it did make better wrestlers back then.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with the actual results of it when you're looking at a Raw and you're seeing a Becky Lynch and a Finn Balor and a Jordan Devlin. So you steamrolled in from that 2-day training camp. Anybody else that was training still wrestling, or would you remember anybody that you would have been training with?
Let me think. When I started, there was a lot of guys there that were probably still around now. I think the likes of Damien Corvin, you know Corvin.
Oh man,
yeah, he was around. Yeah, he's starting. I remember meeting him that day. Yeah,
I know he's in a heel run, but when we did the documentary of OTT, he was an absolute gent. He's just coming over to you and just being real personal, because, like, you know, wrestling to me, I'm looking at it, I'm still in awe of everything. Like, I'm a proper fucking mark for things, and you know, some people might be. You just assume. You don't want to bother them. I don't want to bother them. Yeah, you know what I mean? They have a lot of stuff to plan. So when people like himself, Zach Gibson, they approached me and were like, oh, hey guys, Mark Hoskins. Mark Hoskins was absolute, like, we were just sitting down in the Tivoli upstairs in the kind of the theatre area. And Mark just walked down and was like, hey guys, what are you shooting? Like, oh, we're shooting a documentary. Oh, cool. Why are you shooting it on? Oh, the Tivoli. And I was like, that's really nice, because Mark Hoskins, to me, former OTT champion, I'm like, oh, you know, you don't
top dog.
Yeah, you don't. No need for me to be bothering him.
Yeah.
You know, and then he came down and was really personal. Zach Gibson and Damien Corvin the same as well. And I'm not saying that everyone else was an asshole.
Yeah, but you just remember certain people because
they came.
Yeah, they made an effort.
They allowed me to come out with my shell.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'd be talking to people and they'd be very even standoffish when you're talking to them.
Yeah. I think I might have come across like that years ago, because I just kind of went to the corner and sat on my own, because I was thinking, I don't want to be bothering anyone. I'm just here to come in. And I never wanted to be in the main event. I was happy enough just going out up in first, having your little match, having your few bumps. And I used to love putting people over, and you know, like, just because I'll just bump around for you all day.
In terms of the mindset back then, I remember I was on a tour with IWW, and I was sitting in the middle of a small car, and I had Doug Basham on one side of me and Big Vito on the other side of me, and they were like slagging me off the whole way down, because I was 20 stone at the time. I was a big beefy boy, and like, who the fuck is this idiot in the middle, like, taking up their space? But I got out of the car and I grabbed their bags and I walked their bags to the arena, and it was the same thing. I was awestruck by these people, and I was like, what you've done is mental to me.
Yeah.
You know, even,
just being in that world.
Yeah.
Just being involved.
And then Big Vito bought me a shot of Baby Guinness at the end of the night. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
You'll never forget it.
Never forget.
Yeah.
Never forget. But was that kind of element still there then?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know,
like the respect kind of thing.
100%. Yeah. And like I said, I was just like I didn't come out of my shell, I think, until I moved to kind of the CCW side in Cork years later. Like, even the whole time when I was in NW Ireland, which actually became Fight Factory. So when I went up there in May 2007, it was still NW Ireland. And then when I had my first match with Jordan Devlin in July 2007.
This is a casual fucking name drop, yeah. I had my match with Jordan Devlin. You may have heard of him. He was tag team champion in WWE, yeah.
But, so that was my first ever match.
So was Jordan training with you at that stage, yeah? Yeah. So it would have been like Damien Corvin, Jordan Devlin.
Well, Damien, he was up in Belfast, so these 2-day camps used to come along. So everyone from all over the country would. So
Jordan would have been training for a while then before then.
Yeah, I think he started when he was 14 or something like that. So, so I think at the time he was probably 17 or 18, because I was a year older than him. You know, that kind of way. So when I had my first match with Jordan in July of that year.
So you started training in May?
Yeah.
And you had your first match in July?
July, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But look, Jordan carried me for the whole match.
Yeah, but no, like, was it a Jim Wars show?
Yeah, Jim Wars. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. It was another camp, you see, because at the time I used to go up on a Sunday most weeks, and so it's a 2-hour drive up, a 6-hour training session, and a 2-hour drive home.
Yeah,
it was tough going. So I actually loved the camps because I could go up on a Saturday morning and then I get home then Sunday night.
Where would you stay?
In the gym.
Yeah,
just wrapped up in a blue mat, like,
yeah,
bring a sleeping bag or whatever.
Happy enough with that. Yeah, I the traveling, and it still sometimes gets me. I was 18 and I had to get a bus to get on the Dart to head out to Baldoyle.
Oh, that's tough.
And then get the Dart back and then wait for the bus.
That was how I was going to do things. And luckily my dad at the time, he kind of had to sit down with me and he's like, look, if you want a car, I'll give you a loan for a car. We'll get you on the road, you know. And only for that, I don't think I probably would have got into it because I wasn't prepared to do what you did there, where I was getting buses and darts. And
like it was a lot of money for a young lad to do.
Yeah.
For yourself, I think you had said to me before, you didn't choose IWW purely because
I was a learner driver and I couldn't go on the motorway. That's the only reason I didn't. It's crazy, isn't it? Like,
like IWW was the fucking shit.
Yeah, because I remember watching
TV.
It. Yeah, and for me, that's when I went to watch the IWW shows in Waterford in the Forum when they were doing Whiplash TV.
You had Seamus, you had Drew Galloway,
Stu Sanders,
Way Barrett.
Yeah, and it was just the amount of talent on it. But
Red Vinny, man. I used to love Red Vinny.
Just about to. He was my favourite, right?
Yeah.
He was my favourite, and even when I started doing the kind of the Messiah gimmick, it was kind of a little bit based on Red Vinny's kind of character as well. But when I went to the IWW, the likes of Bam Catraz, Bingo Balance, Vic Viper, Red Vinny, all these guys, and I was thinking these are all the homegrown talent. Like, I was like, this is insane. Like, there's actually an Irish wrestling promotion, all this homegrown talent.
Madman Manson.
Oh yeah, he was fucking so good. Like,
well, we want a Madman Manson comeback.
Yeah.
I keep tagging him and shit.
Yeah.
When the local rumble was happening, I was like, Madman Manson, get him in there.
He's an Irish wrestling veteran, legend.
Yeah. Bam Catraz, there's another name. I know he was wrestling with main stage wrestling. Bingo Balance.
Well, Bingo, he was one of my favourites, Bingo. And then I got to have matches with him and, I got to meet him and stuff like that. And that to me,
gent.
One of the nicest people you can ever meet in your life, that kind of way. Such a down to earth, just a lovely, lovely human being, just always wants to help.
And so, did you stay with Fight Factory then
So after the match I had with Jordan in July...
What was that like, actually? Going back to you're in the ring now, you can say you shared the ring with, Jordan Devlin.
It blew me away because all I had to do was listen to him.
It's mad at that age. Were you a bit older than him?
Only a year.
Right. I remember when I went back in 2015, Fight Factory, and I can get into that in a bit and why that stopped, but LJ Cleary was there. And LJ was only a young lad. But seeing what he was doing in the ring at that age, you were like, this kid's like this, he lives and breathes this.
Funny one about LJ, I was in LJ's first ever match.
No way.
Yeah, it was an 8-man tag.
Class.
Yeah. And that happened by chance as well, but I'll go back to because that's later on down the line. So once I finished up with NW Ireland, then became Fight Factory Pro Wrestling. So they had their matinee show in September.
Yeah.
So it was May, July, and then September. Then I was on that show, and they were after starting this new thing called, I think it was called the Junior Cup or something like that.
Right.
So I was in this Battle Royal, and it was the first ever Fight Factory show, and that was in the Bray Community Centre. You know where NW Ireland used to have all their shows. So that's where that was on, and I actually ended up going over. So I won the match.
No way.
Yeah, and then they were doing
over
a point
Jordan
system.
Devlin.
No, I don't think he was even in it. No, he was doing other stuff at the time. He would have been the junior. He would have been in this kind of tournament before, years ago. This is literally for all newcomers.
3 months in, and you're the Junior Cup champion.
Yeah, well, look, I think they knew I was serious, and I was driving up every Sunday, not missing
I'm
weekends.
16 years in, I've never won a match.
But after this though, I never win matches.
Yeah.
And what happened was then that was in September, and then I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. I think come November, December. It's tough being 18 and being in Ireland and having friends and
drinking.
It's the party scene.
It's the drinking.
It's the party scene, and that's what really, really happened to me. That's what happened was I went back to it. I think it was January, and then I got on one more show. Then in February 2008, it was in Finglas, and again it was we had another kind of an 8-man scramble thing for the Junior Cup or something like that.
Yeah.
And after that, I just kind of stopped. I just completely stopped.
Can I ask you? Do you regret stopping?
Yes, 110%. It was the biggest regret of my life.
Do you regret the partying that you did?
Yeah, because you see, at the time, I just didn't believe that at the time that there was a real career in it, or I was kind of weighing up my options. Goes, am I missing out on the best years of my life with all my friends?
Yeah,
going on holidays, partying every weekend.
You're taking. I think the momentary. You're taking the quick pleasure as opposed to long-term stuff. Yeah. But it's easy to see that now in hindsight at our age.
Yeah.
And go, oh man, I wish I did that and I wish I did that. But at the time, like, being honest, I said I wanted to wrestle, but I also was like, you know what, I'll go drinking. Yeah. I said I didn't have the money to travel up. And, you know, sometimes that mightn't be true.
Yeah, because you'd spend the money on...
Yeah, but sometimes, like, you know, 6 cans are only fucking a fiver back then.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
So you're like, nice one. Yeah. It's not going to cost me €60 to get home. But, it's... Do you beat yourself... When you say it's your biggest regret, do you beat yourself up about it?
I used to. Yeah, and especially when I went back. So
especially because it started so well for you.
Yeah, it did, and I think that I probably could have done a lot more than I did, if I just kept going after 2008. Just kept riding the wave and keep going training, keep your mouth shut, keep learning. Because I was a sponge back then, an absolute sponge. I was taking everything in, and like I said, I was fearless. I was up for anything, and I had the best trainers in the world around me. So, you know, I had it all in the grasp of my hands, and I just kind of I let it slide. And
like, are you keeping up to date then with what they're doing as well? Are you seeing what Jordan Devlin is going on to accomplish? Because he goes he goes to like Japan not so long after this, doesn't he?
Yeah. And you see, after that, I got so into the party that I'd only kind of look at stuff that when I was drunk, and then when I got drunk, then I'd be like, really beating myself up at it, and then I'd be promising myself, right, Monday now I'm going to go back to the gym and I'm going back wrestling training, and that went on for nearly 5 years, you know, that kind of way. And it was only when I saw,
man, this is nearly the exact same as me.
Yeah, and it was only when I saw Celtic Championship Wrestling setting up in Cork, I was like, oh, hang on now, we're somewhere a little bit closer.
So when did
that
set up?
That was 2000 and maybe 13 or 14, I think.
So you had that big of a gap?
Yeah, it was a massive gap. Like, you know?
I remember I was looking on as DCW was starting up in Dublin. Now, I don't know what happened in regards to, like, I know there's some weird shit with that
I don't know
company.
either. And you know, I don't care either.
But, like, in terms of guys that I would have wrestled with or, like, travelled with, and they probably don't even fucking remember me. I was that big 20 stone fucking idiot. But I was seeing those guys, Working Class John and LA Warren and, you know, Ballymun Bruiser, guys that I was on shows with, wrestling on the DCW shows. I remember sitting there and, like, looking at me big man titties and just been like, oh fuck,
you should be there.
Yeah, I was like, why couldn't I wrestled against these people? And I had okay matches, and Mandrake gave me a nice shout out before, and you know, all those little things that make a young guy feel stand fucking tall and stand big and
give you a bit of confidence.
Yeah,
gives you that confidence. Yeah,
you know, and I remember kind of going, right, I did like you. I'm going to get back to it. Because I thought it was about to kick off for me, because I was just after doing an IWW tour, and I was like, this is class. Mandrake, like, sought me out and said, I am going to tell Simon that was a really good match that you had with me. And I was like, oh, unbelievable. And then I was meant to go to England with Conor Hurley. Do you remember Conor Hurley?
I remember of him, because I followed the wrestling scene, like,
the evil GE player.
That's right.
And we were going to go over
Kilkenny man.
Yeah. We were going to go over and be a tag team in some place, RQW or something, I don't know. And he had to pull out.
Real Quality Wrestling, was that the name? Something like that.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. But he pulled out, and I just never flew over on my own.
Yeah, I could have left you hanging then. Like,
and no, but I won't blame him. He goes, you go. By all means, it's still set up for you to go. And I remember that's really like a fight or flight moment, and I shit the bed on it. And I was like, I'm not going, I'm not traveling on my own. I'm not getting the bus up. I'm not flying over. I ended up stranded in a different country.
Yeah.
And to this day, I remember that exact moment. And I had another one of those moments in 2015. And we'll get into that in quite a bit, because you're getting back into wrestling started in what, 2013, 2014?
At the end of 2013. Because what happened was I saw that Ross Brown was becoming the trainer in the new school in Cork.
I don't know Ross's association with wrestling. Now, I have seen him, like, at IWW shows. I remember he came out and cut a promo in the Forum down in Waterford.
That's right.
At the end of it.
Yeah. No, that was CCW.
Was it CCW?
When they had that kind of, they were doing a storyline, but it looked legit.
Yeah,
he came out and went, you know, mad, and he buried everyone, and that was CCW.
Was it CCW?
Was that when I saw that? That's what
with bingo balances there, and
yes. So what happened there was, I didn't know it at the time, but I knew of Ross Brown because I used to follow NW Ireland because he was the investment Ross Brown, and he was around when like.
So he was wrestling, yeah.
He was part of the beginning with NW Ireland, and he was really really good. He was there when like Fergal and Paul and all them lads were wrestling like regularly on in
because I've heard of the name, but I've never like actively seen that he was wrestling. So
he did that gimmick, and then that made me, because I actually missed the show. I wasn't there for that night. Obviously, I was probably drinking or something like that.
He's doing big things in the radio. He's down with Cork.
Yeah, and I have so much respect for Ross, and that's the reason why I went back.
After writing for the young offenders.
Yeah, that's right, and he does a bit of acting as well. Does he? Yeah. But Ross was like, when I saw him that he's going to be the new trainer, I was like, right, so I'm not going to go back to Fight Factory, or I'm not going to go up to Dublin because I don't want to be travelling that far. But at least I have the NWA influence in Cork now.
Yeah,
do you know that kind of way? So that's what I did. I got in contact with Ross directly. I'll never forget it. I was at Independence, you know, that festival.
Yeah.
And drunk.
As you do.
Yeah, as usual. So what happened was I got drunk and I texted him. Just randomly out of the blue at 11:30, sitting in the tent while the rain was lashing.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of way. And I said to him, hey, are you taking classes down in Cork? And he wrote back fairly quick and he was like, yeah. He goes, pop down, there's the times, you know. And I said, I used to train with NW Ireland. He goes, oh, okay, interesting. He said, you know, pop down.
Yeah.
You know, that's enough chit chat. Like, just get down here, you know. So the following week I got down there and it was like as if nothing changed. I was just hooked straight away. You know, like now it was tough going because, you know, taking that much of a time off. And you know when you take your first bump the next day where you can't move your neck?
It's disgraceful.
It's the whiplash, you know, and I remember getting that back and I was like, this is the last time I'm restarting wrestling because I'm not going through this again.
Yeah,
you know, that kind of, because once after a while your body just gets used to it.
Calloused.
Yeah, you get calloused for it, you know. So I rode the wave again and I was really enjoying that run down in CCW. And Ross was kind of taking a different approach at the time where he was doing a lot of the stuff that I was doing with NW Ireland, where it was, you know, you take about an hour out of the training class and we'd all do shoot, you know, right. So he was kind of bringing that back, and you know, it didn't suit some people, and you know, some people maybe didn't want to be there because of that or whatever. But there was a split then within CCW. So after what happened was, we had the first kind of over 18 show called Riot, and it was on in the Savoy.
I remember CCW really making an effort with the production side.
Yeah, they did. They had a group called Wrestle Dope.
Yeah, right.
And they were really good, but the only problem with them was they were so slow to release stuff.
Right.
You know, that kind of way. But when they did release it, it was really well done. Like, you remember what? They're all still on YouTube, all the videos, and they were putting up shows. But the first one was Riot, and that was in the Savoy in 2000 and I want to say 13. So that was my first match back. I was in a tag team match. It was me and a fella called Adam O'Brien with two trainees from the school. There was these two biker lads from Kerry, Rough Stuff, Paul Scarf and Carl O'Reilly. I know Pop Carol, I do. I know the name. Yeah. And
I remember the name Rough Stuff. Yeah,
they were really good, like. And then there was another guy called Francis Doherty, who was another trainee with Ross, and that was kind of the first match back. And then what happened that night then was Ross and Bingo were having their blow off,
right,
the main event for the title, and something happened. I think Ross dislocated his shoulder in the match. Apparently, I don't know. Maybe it was a work. You don't know what Ross.
Workers,
yeah, he was working everybody. And Tony Kelly came in that night.
Tony, right?
That was my first time really meeting Tony.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because we have like an aunt and an uncle who are married, you know, so we're kind of family-in-law.
Yeah,
but we knew of each other, but we never really kind of met. So that was the night I first met Tony. But what happened was then the owner of CCW fucking lost his mind, I think, and then he ended up having a big falling out with Ross, sacked Ross. So everything was just up in the air, like, you know, that kind of way.
I want to take you back because I think we kind of skipped over the whole you wrestling with Jordan Devlin, having that, you know, your very first match against him, but your very first match back.
Yeah.
A lot of anxiety, I assume, is going through your body.
Oh yeah.
Like, you have to have gear.
Well, funnily enough,
you know, you have to be able to interact with the crowd and stuff like. So what's Darren, 11 years ago, thinking just before he walks out of the curtain? What's he wearing?
Which one? The first time?
No. When
I came back.
When you came back at CCW 2013.
I actually, see, I was always very conscious. I'd always say to myself, if I'm not going to be the best wrestler, I'm going to have the best gear, or I'm going to be at least in pretty good shape. So prior to that, I spent a lot of money on custom gear.
Yeah.
I got it from Australia. I think I spent about €400 on these. They were bikers, kick pads, knee pads. Everything was all custom. And, you know, I even got a lot of compliments backstage because all the guys that I was training with in CCW in Cork, they were all wearing kind of MMA gear or, put together pieces. And I had probably the best gear nearly on the card, you know, that kind of way, because I was after
making yourself
money.
stand out.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And then as well, I always try to keep myself in a certain shape where I'm not in the best shape, but I'm.
Is there an age factor to that as well? Because
you're a little bit more mature.
Age can be a bit more of an advantage because you have a bit more money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have a bit more maturity about you. So when you're 17, you know, you don't have €400 to be putting on gear, but maybe when you're a few years older, you have that and you're able to have the wherewithal then to go, I need to invest in this if I want to do this.
Yeah. And I started getting into, took a bit of steroids as well. So I was on Sustanon 250.
Okay.
So that was another side of it because I wanted to, because I was saying, look, if I'm not going to be the best wrestler, I'm going to definitely stand out.
Did you feel pressured to do that, or was it your self-inflicted?
Yeah, self-inflicted. And it was something I always kind of wanted to do anyway. I just wanted to try it out because I was always naturally very small and skinny.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of way. I'm 5'5", and I was always like sitting between 9 and 10 stone, which is quite light, like, you know, that kind of way. But once I started juicing, I was nearly hitting 12, and you know, for a 5'5" guy, it looked good.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of way. So I was doing all
side effects from it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Like negative.
Oh
yeah, definitely feel side effects. Negative.
Well, coming off them, yeah.
Time will tell.
Coming off them, yeah.
I'm not asking you for specifics. It's just,
I don't mind. I don't mind talking
there's like the debate of, you know, them actually in wrestling, the Bigger, Stronger, Faster documentary. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a lot of discourse surrounding that, and there's a big perception surrounding steroids, and people immediately go to a negative point of view. Like, from your experience, is it negative or positive?
I didn't take the piss with steroids. I didn't
take the piss in terms of the test. I didn't take the piss test.
No, none of that. But I was only taking 2 mil a week of Sustanon 250. You know, it's a pretty heavy steroid. But at the same time, like, I didn't go overboard with it. You know, I kind of, you know, I didn't take too many. I kind of knew I didn't want to get to this stage where it's like crazy big.
Do you think you would have accomplished what you accomplished without steroids over time?
Yeah, it was just for my own personal look.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it gives you that little bit of confidence as well, because, and then coming off them as well, you do get very low, you know, that kind of way, because you when you're on them, you look in the mirror and you go, fuck, I look good, like, you know, that kind of way. And other than that, no, I didn't really get.
So did you take these in anticipation to your re-debut in CCW?
Well, I took them kind of after that, because I thought to myself, right,
I need to stand out here.
Yeah, I'm going to stand out here a little bit more, like, you know.
Okay, so were you still involved with CCW then, training with them? You were saying Ross is out of the equation, so
that was just a crazy time, because Ross kind of decided he was going to do his own thing, because we had the CCW training centre, which was in I think it's SBG Ireland now in Cork. It used to be called K2C Kickboxing Club or something like that.
Okay.
So we were able to keep that, but obviously the ring was gone, because CCW are after taking the ring now, and they were after moving somewhere else, and Blake Norton became involved. You know, Blake Norton from Cork. He was...
That name rings a bell.
Yeah, he would have been involved when...
IWW?
Yeah, at the very beginning.
the original trend?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Did he do the wrestling channel... was it the bagpipe thing, or was he on the wrestling channel?
Yeah, he was. I think he was an interviewer, and he did a bit of wrestling as well, I think. He was the Celtic Tiger, they called him.
Yeah, but he was original trainer for IWW.
Yeah.
And then they found out he wasn't actually like...
that good.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
So I decided I wasn't going to go to his classes, because I didn't want to be associated with it.
With him?
Him, and just kind of the negativity of it, like, you know.
Of CCW?
Not CCW, but it was just of his training. You know, because around the country people were like, Jesus, you know, I wouldn't be going to...
Because was there a lot of talk that he did a lot of stuff in Canada and...
Yeah. But I don't know if any of that is true. Nobody really knows, like. I asked a few parts when I was in Canada, did they know him, and nobody knew who he was, like. You know?
So did you stop training then?
Yeah, no, I kind of kept going with Ross, but I was still getting booked on the CCW shows. So what was happening then is I wasn't getting any better. I was kind of stagnating.
Because there was no ring.
Yeah, and you know, I was still with Ross, and we were still doing like, and then Ross was kind of moving more to a shoot style. So I go down to his classes, and like we do like maybe an hour of work and then 2 hours of shoot.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not beneficial, you know.
Good cardio.
Oh yeah, great cardio, yeah. And you know, it toughens you up, like, and I enjoyed it, but at the same time I was thinking to myself, well, I could do this in Waterford. Like there's MMA in Waterford and stuff, you know? I don't want to.
That was the same thing when I was in a wrestling ring and I got boxing gloves on and had to box someone else, and I'm like, I could do this in Kilkenny, like
yeah.
I can get my head boxed off me by someone older in Kilkenny.
Yeah, you don't have to spend all this money and put all the miles on the clock as well.
Yeah. Like, I know you're probably trying to teach us a lesson or whatever, but no, teach us wrestling.
Yeah.
Please
tell me how to work, like, you know.
Yeah. I don't know what a fucking blind feed is.
Yeah. So
what's
like
an Iggy?
A what?
An Iggy. I only found that term out recently, and I've had like numerous different stints.
Oh yeah, me too.
I've been in the ring, and like I've only recently found out the term Iggy.
Yeah.
And when he gives you the Iggy, I'm like, what the fuck's an Iggy?
It's like a reverse or something, isn't it?
Yeah, no, an indication that, you know, we're going to jump or something.
Yeah, so there was a lot of things where, you know, I was completely blinded by with that. So, you know, I think that the best thing for me, what I should have done back then was I should have just went back to Fight Factory. Yeah. You know, because I believe that Fight Factory were, without a doubt, probably the best school in Europe, where they manufacture the best wrestlers, like, you know, that kind of way. So
you look at say Irish wrestling now, like Sammy D and Be Cool are about to main event. Well, not main event, because the main event is going to be Trent Seven. One of them is going to main event, but they're both going against each other on this big long story that they've built, and their Fight Factory ex-alumni.
Yeah. And what happened was, well then, so with Ross being involved with NW Ireland years ago, himself and Phil, who would be good friends, they decided, you know, to do kind of like a talent exchange. So there was one day where Fight Factory were having a show in 2008, and I decided to go up just to watch the show.
In 2008?
Yeah. Sorry, 2000, and this is
13, 14.
14.
Okay.
So this is after Ross leaves CCW.
Yeah.
And he was going to do his own thing. I can't think of the name. It was Premier Pro Wrestling or something like that. He was going to set up.
PP-Dub.
Yeah.
PP-Dub.
Something like that anyway. Or it was a lot more like kind of a shoot style wrestling. You know, that kind of way?
Yeah.
So we were doing this thing where he was after picking 2 or 3 guys from the school to go up and wrestle on the Fight Factory show. I wasn't picked because I was kind of missing a bit of training at the time.
Were you pissed by it, or did you understand?
Nah, I was at the time as well. I was like I said, it was a lot more mature. So
yeah, so you had to wear it. That's a big thing. I noticed it in soccer and stuff. Lads would be like, "Why aren't I playing?" I was like, "Well, you haven't been at fucking training."
Yeah. But what I did was,
and then they get pissy about it, you know. So
I decided I was going to go up to watch the show anyway. And there's always this saying is, you always bring your gear. You always bring your gear, you know. So I did. I brought my gear, put it in the boot, went up to the show, and they were actually stuck. They needed someone. And Ross goes, "You hardly have your gear." I said, "I do." You know,
class.
You know, I do have it. Yeah.
You have to pay in though. No. You have to pay into the show. You bought a ticket, like.
But I went up early anyway. Yeah. You know, that kind of
help out with the ring.
Yeah. That's what it was. Like, you know, when Ross was, I was like, "Look, come up if you want and help out with the ring," you know, and no problem. That's what I did. And then I got in there was a 4-man, and that was LJ's first match. LJ Cleary, and I remember he was actually wearing a Rey Mysterio mask.
He was under a mask.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Again, like I didn't do much in the match, but you know, I was happy to just be involved in it. So after that, then it was we just kind of steamrolled in. I think Ross then I think that was the end then of that whole thing. I think Ross just decided to throw in the towel and was like, "Look, I'm going off."
And CCW is still going.
Yeah, CCW is still going, and you know,
I remember was it Lycan?
Yeah, he was kind of the champion.
He came from DCW. I was like.
Lycan, I have to give props to Lycan. He's one of the nicest human beings ever.
And you know what? He looks like it. He looks sound.
Yeah, he's sound.
He had like long hair, he's a big hairy guy and all that. But I was like, I bet you he's sounding really
good wrestler as well. Yeah, really, really good. Like he's such a good storyteller. You know, that kind of way. And that's why I think that CCW trusted him with the belt. So that year, then I decided, you know, I started getting a bit more confidence in what I was doing, and I started.
So where are you training though?
I was training down in CCW. So
so you went back there when Ross.
So Ross was finished. I think Blake was kind of finishing up as well. There was fucking drama with him, so he was gone. So what we were doing is we were kind of getting guest trainers down on the weekends. So like Bingo might come down on the Saturday, or Bruiser would come down. So there was always someone to take us. Yeah. You know, that kind of way. Especially on the weekends. I don't know about during the week. I didn't go down there during the week. It was once a week I went down. Yeah. And, you know, I was still getting on shows and there were still opportunities for me. So I was still, you know, training. Yeah. And I was in the gym 5 days a week as well, you know, that kind of way. So so by the end of the year then, it was kind of a thing where, right, we're going to put you in a faction, the Establishment. Remember the Establishment?
No.
That was
Give me the names. See, I was only watching on, say, YouTube.
Yeah, it was all that
stuff. So the establishment, who's in it?
So it was Lee Callan, the owner, Lycan, who was the champion at the time.
Right.
Jack Weiss, the South African guy from Belfast, and myself. It was four of
South
us.
African guy from Belfast.
Yeah, he's South African, but I think he lives in Belfast.
What a gimmick!
Yeah, so we kind of had a mix of a South African accent and a Nordic accent.
That rings a bell. Was he in a tag team or who? Lee Callahan, is it?
He was the owner.
Yeah, he was the owner.
The owner, yeah. So, and then we were doing this thing where Ricky Combat. You've heard of Ricky Combat?
Yeah, I know Ricky Combat.
Yeah, so me and him got on really well because at the time...
I think I had a match with him and Harry Hardshaw in Hackettstown. I think it was a triple threat years ago when Mick Wall tried to start up his own company. We had one show. And Paddy Morrow, Maxer, Think Duncan Disorderly, and Omen, Joe Cabret, they all came down and they wrestled on it, and the show wasn't promoted properly, but they were really sound about pay and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Mick, and that was that always stuck with me.
Yeah,
I was like, they knew that the show didn't draw well, and they weren't a dick to the guy who promoted it, which wasn't me.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting paid anyway, but they were like, no, it's okay, man. It's cool. Like, we understand.
Yeah. We were just out there and we just see there's no one on the seats.
And it wasn't promoted properly at all.
Yeah.
But I was like, these guys are sound individuals.
Yeah. Well, I think 99% of people who were involved with Irish wrestling were sound, and the people who weren't, they got found out fairly quick and they were pushed out. You
think so?
Well, yeah. I think that's not just wrestling. I think that's with anything
in life.
Like when MMA, MMA classes or kickboxing or anything at all. Like, there's always going to be some sort of drama. There's always going to be some sort of shit that goes on everywhere.
Can I ask you about, like, say in CCW in 2014? Are you getting paid?
No. I only started getting paid in 2015.
Is that? Do you agree with that? If you're part of the show and you're not getting paid?
Looking back,
you have to earn your reps, because this isn't a wrestling thing. This is an entertainment thing.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People expecting people to do things for free.
Well, I'll give you a good example, and it always stuck with me. In 2014, we did a West Cork tour with CCW.
Yeah.
And Lee was after booking Joe, and he was just after coming back from NXT. And this is probably the reason why there is OTT, because it was so fucking horrendous, the tour. So Joe was on it anyway. We did Limerick, we did Middleton, I think it was, we did Mitchelstown, we did Clonakilty. So we did this kind of little tour, that kind of way. And I remember one night I was drunk and I said to Joe, I said, should I be getting paid here? What's the story? How do I ask about pay? And he kind of said, well, do you think you're worth it?
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe not. Maybe no.
No, that's true as well, because the other side of the argument is that all that money is invested on the show that you're getting to learn on as well.
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's two sides to the coin. And like, I've ended up getting expenses given to me, like, I drove the lads to the shows, and like, that's invaluable stuff as well. But I have heard like different things going, I didn't get paid for this, I didn't get paid for that, and a lot of negativity around it, whereas I was like just fucking buzzing to be involved. I was like that at the very start. I was like, I'm just happy to be on the card. Like, I've done comedy where I haven't been paid, and I've done comedy where I have been paid. I am not motivated by money. I'm motivated though by fairness. Yeah, me too. So if it is fair, and that goes back to what Joe was saying about your value. Yeah. If you were valuable to it and you add value to the show, by all means. Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. If you're not though, it's not fair.
Why'd you get paid? You're here to learn. Yeah. That kind of way. So
you didn't get paid in 2014. You're part of the establishment.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was only after I won my first belt. It was just at the beginning of 2015. I think it was 16, I think it even was. Maybe I'm getting my timelines mixed up, because it was 16 when I won the belt. So maybe I went 2 years without getting paid in CCW.
Did you care?
No.
Did you get expenses like traveling?
Yeah. You looked after sometimes, and I'd pretend as if I'd care, but like, underneath it all, I'm like, I'm just happy to be involved.
Yeah, I just want to wrestle.
Like, let
me up on the top rope and do something.
Like, I was the one. I was always known for every couple of months I'd have new gear. Yeah. I was like, where are you getting all this money for all this new gear? I was like, I don't care. I want to invest in myself. I want to look good.
I used to have a promotion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was doing this shit anyway. Yeah. Now I get to do it, and it's a lot safer. And then I would pay to do this. I have been paying. I've been training.
When I turned heel, during the summer tour, I think it was the summer tour, it was 2014, that summer tour, and I turned heel. That's when I just became really, really comfortable. I find it difficult even now
is the pauses and time that you have to take, because 2 seconds in there still to me now in training feels like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And so 10 seconds feels like fucking exponentially longer.
Yeah.
But you know the way everyone says slow down, take your time. It's not.
And if you feel you're going too slow, go slower.
Slower. Yeah, and it's the same with comedy. I will tell myself every time I go up on the stage, I was like, slow the fuck down.
Yeah.
And it's the same with radio. And I only got into my cadence with radio the past 2-3 years. And I was doing it for 6 years. I usused to come out and go, welcome along, scoreline coming up on the show today. It's just pace.
Yeah.
And been afraid of silences. But it's about finding that crest of a wave and then start riding it. And I still struggle with the wrestling, but by turning heel, is that...
Yeah, that was, for me, that was, because I never wanted to be the one who goes out there. I never sold merch ever in my life. I didn't want to be going out meeting fans at intermission or even after the show.
As a heel or as a face?
Just in general.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go out there, have the match, and then just disappear. That's why being a heel was just, I loved it. You know, that kind of way. I was never interested in selling merch. I was never interested in meeting wrestlers. And that's why when I get in Canada, I was a heel straight away. And I loved it because I used to always like say to the promoter, look, put me on first. I'll just go out there, put someone over, and then I'd go to the bar and spend my PO at the bar, you know, that kind of way, and just disappear. I was never into the whole thing of, oh, look, I'm a fucking superstar, I want to sign autographs. I used to actually get weirded out when people asked me for an autograph.
I remember getting asked for an autograph on an IWW Gym Wars show, and I was like, do I sign the name that the IWW gave me, or do I sign mine?
Your own name,
yeah, because the name they gave me was Scott O'Keefe, and I was like, do I say Shane or Scott? I don't know. I
used to just get like, I don't know, uncomfortable when I used to, even with, you know, kids or, how can you sign? I'm like, what are you asking me for? Like, you know, I'm no nobody. You know what I mean? Nobody asking me for an autograph. But yeah, like as we steamrolled then into CCW, it was after I won the CCW All-Star title. It was around that time then as well where I started getting really comfortable with just with the wrestling and the situation. Then I got booked for a show in Switzerland because CCW were doing a talent exchange with Swiss Power Wrestling.
Oh, right.
So that was kind of opening up doors to me, and you know, I was like,
IWW is, or OTT is pretty much in flux around this stage as well, isn't it? Because they started 2014.
Yes, yeah, they're
kind of
starting up now.
At this time.
Yeah,
Are you looking at that and going?
Yeah, but I'm looking at it going,
destination?
Nah. I was like, nah, not a hope. Like, you know,
that you wouldn't, that as in like it didn't interest you, or
no?
That?
It's like I'm not at that level. I don't
really.
Yeah. You know,
even though you've been doing it and you've won your title in CCW.
Yeah, I never like. I always kind of kept like I never wanted to be in the main. I never wanted like these, you know, big opportunities. I just wanted to do things I wanted to do my own thing. You know, that kind of way. Like when I first got back into the wrestling, when I went back with Ross and all that, my only goal was to actually wrestle in Waterford. And then I did that then by the end of that year, I think it was 2014, when I got to wrestle Lycan in Crystal Nightclub for the heavyweight title in a death match. We actually called it a Dacia death match.
Class.
And I think it did get a little bit of heat of some other people around the country because it was pretty violent. You know, we did light tubes, barbed wire.
Jesus, man, why?
Well, Lycan was up for it. I was up for it. You know, that kind of way. And it was just something I always wanted to do. And
was it a good match?
It was all right. It was violent. Yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah, it's on YouTube.
I'll go check it out. Go check it out. Where can people find this stuff?
A Wrestle Dope. The same guys. Yeah,
Wrestle Dope.
Wrestle Dope. That's what it's under. Yeah, there's loads of shows.
What about your backyard stuff?
That's all there too. Extreme Irish Wrestling.
Extreme Irish Wrestling. We're getting we can make a documentary about you.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But it's all scattered all over the line.
So did you not think you were good enough for OTT then?
Yeah. I never thought I was.
Do you think the death match played into that?
No. That was just something I wanted to do. It just a personal thing.
To be willing to do deathmatch wrestling when not a lot of people are makes you stand out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're willing to go to barbed wire and light tubes.
But I find that easier than the kind of technical side of wrestling.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, it's way easier.
Like, technical side. Zack Sabre Jr. is not, even though he's not my cup of tea. Like what he does, absolutely astounds me.
Yeah, it blows my mind.
But I can when Mick Foley gets thrown into a fucking, you know, I'm like, yeah, that hurt.
Yeah, and it takes a kind of a special kind of person to agree to do those kind of things.
Yeah,
you know, that kind of
but
way,
like at the same time, what Zack Sabre Jr. is doing is technically very, very proficient.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like I think that with that kind of wrestling, to me.
What kind of wrestler were you?
Which, like in general?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
really, there's a style.
Yeah, I don't know. I could never, because I actually don't know that. I always kind of was a little bit lost in that kind of sense because I didn't really have a style, or I didn't like. I never really lifted people. I was more like throwing kicks, drop kicks, and just jumping at people, you know, like that kind of way. But like even my finisher was the curb stomp for a long time because I just thought it was an easy thing to do. I was always looking for an easier way of doing things.
Yeah, I only actually started thinking that there recently by training with all these amazing people that I'm training with. Like they can do really cool things. I can't do that kind of cool thing, so I'm gonna strip everything back.
Yeah. I just found that was the easiest thing to do, like, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna
and
be
it's
like
safe
Matt
as
Classic.
well.
If anyone remembers Wrestling Society X with Colt Cabana as Matt Classic, that's what I'm gonna try to do. Fucking headlock. I can't even do a proper headlock.
Work a headlock for 10 minutes. Okay?
Yeah, I can't even. I like collapsed on myself doing a headlock takeover the other day, and I was just so pissed with myself for like 2 days. Really pissed off.
Oh yeah, well I had so many things like that where, you know, you're training and you're like, and you can't get stuff and and it really affects your confidence.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck, now why can't I do this? And you see other guys and girls doing it and they're just like boom, boom, boom. And you're like, and then it really kind of questions you going, should I even be in here? You know, what am I doing here? And I had a lot of moments like that.
Did you get confident in CCW though?
I did.
And why didn't that pass over to OTT? Like that, I find that, because you mentioned the Swiss people. Like, did you look at OTT, and especially you had that talk with Joe before, you know, you may have known him, and you don't.
Oh no, I wouldn't say I knew Joe, because it was just literally I was on a tour with him, and I like Joe. To me, he was kind of an intimidating character, you know. That kind
a lot of people would say that.
Yeah, you know. So like, it was only when I kind of got drunk after the show, then I'd kind of approached Joe and talked to him.
I was about to say it to you, because you did with Ross. You reached out. Like, did you ever try and reach out to OTT?
No, I wouldn't. I just
was it a confidence issue?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I just thought like OTT is on a different level to where like CCW, like even Justy used to always joke and used to call CCW the Bush Leagues. And you know
Justy's great, man.
Yeah,
I have a lot of time for Justy.
There's an element to a bit of truth there, like, you know, that kind of way.
What's it called? Mud shows.
Yeah, you know, that kind of way. Like I'm not here. I'm not going to bury anybody, because like I said, I'm at peace with everything I've done. I've done more than I ever planned on ever doing. Like, I always set little goals, and like I said, my first goal was to just have one match, even in a gym, and I'm happy. And then when I went back, I was like, I want to just wrestle in Waterford, and I'm happy. But like as time goes on, it kind of things like snowball, you know, that kind of way. So after the Swiss debut, I then decided then it was time to I kind of saw CCW as a sinking ship.
Really?
Yeah, at the time I thought there was kind of a lot of negativity in places, and I just felt that, you know, eventually it was gonna.
Was there a lot of drinking involved? Like, you were saying that, you know, you'd get drunk after a show or whatever. Was there a lot of drinking involved? Not just, I'm not trying to delve into your personal life here or anything. Like, I'm recovering. I'm over a year sober now.
Yeah.
I've had problems with it, but I can imagine me at that age in that atmosphere with like all these people that are mad about wrestling, that there probably is a big party culture.
It was only certain people, you know. There was a lot of people, in fairness to them, you know, they were dedicated to the craft and they weren't into partying and drinking. Yeah. Where I was into partying and drinking anyway. You know, like before I even came into wrestling. So like after a show, I used to love. I get excited about not only the match but the after the show.
Oh yeah,
I'm going out in Cork. I'm staying in Cork tonight.
I know exactly what you're talking.
You know, so like say for example, Glen Rovers GA, we used to do shows there, and like, as they were taking down the ring, I'd sneak up to the clubhouse and down about 3 or 4 pints.
Yeah, I'd have a few cans already with me.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'd have them in my gear bag.
Yeah, like I could imagine if I was still drinking and smoking, I could be like, oh, imagine what a fag and a pint after a match would be like.
It's just the best feeling ever. Like,
yeah, you know, like John Moxley even talked about it. He's on all clean and stuff. Okay, so why was it a sinking ship then? Like, was it not managed well, or like was it? I thought maybe a party atmosphere to it.
I don't even think that was it. That was my that was me. I was a party animal, and I still probably am. I haven't decided to go. Look, maybe it's time to give it up. Maybe I should, but I'm not prepared to have that conversation with myself.
Yeah.
You know, like, so,
well, and look, I'm not going to have the conversation with you either. Yeah, you know.
But yeah, like I enjoy having a few pints, and I suppose I when I drink, I don't like to stop, and it's not the actual physical element of the alcohol. It's not the actual liquid. For me, it's the crack, it's the buzz, it's the social element of it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know, you wait when you've had it like a long weekend of partying, and then you have to go home to your bedroom, and it's so just sad. Like, yeah, and it's like, it's so quiet now.
Brother, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know, and you're just lying there going, I'm never drinking again. But then once, like a couple of days later, you're starting to feel good again. You're like, I'll go out for one.
Now you're starting to feel good again because you know that you're going to go drinking again.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what it was like for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not casting aspersions on anybody, but that's exactly what it is for me. I'd be drinking full bottles of gin, and then I'd make sure I'd have cans there.
Yeah.
You know, it was, and then I'd get sad about the fact that I wasn't wrestling anymore.
Yeah.
And like that led to the OTT documentary. I was sitting there drinking cans and with Matthew, watching the Vice CZW Backyard Wrestling documentary. I was like, we could do that.
Yeah.
Oh, and I really wanted to be like involved in wrestling. So I text Joe Cabray and I was like, can we make a documentary? And we had a chat and all that kind of stuff. And that's how we ended up making the documentary. It came from drinking and just wanting to be involved in stuff. I think I did a bit of ring announcing for Fight Factory, and that stemmed from a bit of drinking.
Yeah. Because it gets into your head, and when you're drunk, you're kind of, they say, like, you know, your true feelings come out or whatever, like, and it's just, when you love wrestling so much, and then sometimes when you're sober, you're kind of keeping it down. But then when you have that drink, you're like, you know, you regurgitate it all. Then, like, you know,
when CCW is happening, OTT is happening.
Yeah,
I go back to Fight Factory. I'm training like a mad joke for a while. Then I get a bad injury to my face. It's all scarred the fuck up. I take about 6 months out. I come back to a Maxer dojo session and partially tear my bicep. I remember doing you know, is it a lucha roll or something?
Oh, then when you kind of
dive out onto a handstand and then go.
Yeah.
And I remember I came right down on top of my spine, and then I rolled into where Fight Factory has like the couches and stuff.
Is this in Dublin or this is in
Bray?
Oh, Bray, yeah, I remember Bray. Yeah,
15 or 16, and I could not stand. And I was like, oh. And I remember lying there on the floor, having to drive back to Kilkenny, and I found out later that it was my bicep that was partially torn, and I was like, this is it. This is my... I remember looking up at the ceiling and looking around at the posters on the wall going...
Taking it all in, like, for the last time.
Yeah, I was like, this is my dreams dead. Yeah. And then I was able to start moving again. And I remember I ran out to Maxter and was like, sorry, I have to go home. There's a big family thing. And he was like, oh, you're going already? And I was like, yeah. And I handed him the money and I left. And I was like, that's me done. Now I have to be okay with the fact.
Yeah,
I was never okay with the fact.
No, you never are, like, you know, especially when you're always going to do what if is always
and it's not what if, like... looking at WWE kind of thing.
No, not at all.
It's like, I would have had so much fun doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that's why I used to treat wrestling as a hobby. So when I went back to wrestling, because I wasn't prepared to give up the drink or give up the party, and I was like, right, so I'm going to do things like I'm not, the wrestling, I didn't give it 100% at all. I probably gave it 50 to 60%. You know, that kind of, because I wasn't prepared.
Is there room for doing that here in Ireland? With the caliber of, say, trainers that we have.
There is now, yeah, 100%. But at the time, I just didn't think anything other than this is just a hobby for me.
Yeah.
You know, I go to work Monday to Friday and I'll do the wrestling on the weekend.
Yeah, that's the same. I do amateur theatre and stuff. You know, I like acting.
And at the time then, I decided then, and as well, another reason why I decided to leave Ireland was because of the kind of life I was living where, okay, I'm in a minimum wage job making $8.65 an hour. And then I'm doing the wrestling then. So I was like, I need a big change.
So it wasn't to do wrestling?
Not necessarily.
You just moved to Canada?
Yeah, I just decided I needed out.
Where did you go?
Ireland. I went to Calgary.
Calgary, Alberta, huh?
Yeah, and the reason why I went there was...
The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be.
Yeah, there we go. But like the reason why I went there was nothing to do with wrestling. I actually had a group of people I knew from Waterford that were working for a company called GDI. They were a facilities company who did...
GDI, I thought they were going to be a wrestling promotion.
No. But basically, they were high-rise window cleaners.
GDI.
So I was after getting offered a job, literally 3 days. Like I had the job kind of lined up before I even left for Canada. So it made life so much easier. Had friends over there, so I had a couch to stay on. So I got to Canada in June 2016. So, and prior to this, then I was finishing up with CCW. I dropped the belt, say goodbye to everyone.
Who'd you drop the belt to?
It was actually in a triple threat match between me, Omega, who is Corey Wall from Cork, and Bingo Balance. Bingo Balance, me and him were kind of in the middle of a feud with Tony. Tony was my manager then as well, leading up to the end. And Tony finished up, and then I was moving away as well. So, you know, I dropped the belt, and that was the end of it for me and CCW. I was like, right, that's it. Like, I'm finished with this place. And
the place did stop soon after, didn't it?
No, it actually had a kind of a resurgence because they moved to another venue and they started doing these really kind of crazy bring your own beer events.
Right.
And I think how that all ended then is Pastor William Ever and someone else had a match, and they actually ended up going out onto the street and onto the quays in Cork.
Yeah.
The guards got involved.
Oh, wow.
And then they were kind of going, oh, wait, now I think there's something going on in this warehouse on the quays. But, you know, bring your own beer. And it was just, I think it was just messy. I wasn't involved in all that. I was after jumping ship in 2000, in May 2016, I was gone. And I think they went on for maybe another couple of years.
Okay. But you're over in Canada now. So how's the wrestling start?
So for me, wrestling was finished. You know,
really?
I'm just like...
you weren't looking over there going, hey, Mr. Hart Dungeon, you know...
Not really.
Where's the dungeon at?
But I brought my gear. As they say, you always bring your gear. Yeah. So my priority was just getting settled in first. So in June, I got settled in, started the job. And a month later, I found this company called Real Canadian Wrestling.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah. I was like,
guy.
So the rest is history. I sent him kind of I found out who the promoter was. I sent him kind of a wrestling CV, some matches, some pictures. And he was like, yeah, what are you doing Saturday? Nice. I was like... nothing. Why? What's going on? And he sent me the address, and it was crazy.
WrestleMania. Little thing called WrestleMania, Darren. Don't know if you've heard of it.
In Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
WrestleMania. We're going to have The Rock and Kane, and you just end up showing up at these tribute shows.
But yeah, it was just mad the way it happened. And then what happened then was I was literally on the C train, which was the train in the city centre, and all I had to do was jump on this train for 4 stops.
Wait, no.
And the venue is there.
The C train. Does the C stand for Canada?
It could do, or maybe Calgary.
The Calgary train.
I
fucking love Canada. I spent a month in Canada, and it was just the most simplest, loveliest life.
Oh, well, look, I'd always go back, and it was the greatest time of my life when I was in Canada.
With Real Canadian Wrestling.
With Real Canadian Wrestling. RCW. So went there anyway, had my match, and I actually did. I kept on the character, the Messiah, Xavier Burns. And at the time, did you ever hear of the Calgary Stampede?
Yeah.
So it's a 2-week festival, like rodeos and stuff like that.
Oh, I was Canadian Stampede, sorry, yeah.
You're thinking of the wrestling.
I'm thinking of the wrestling.
And you know the funny thing about it is that event was on during the Canadian Stampede.
No way.
So during this festival...
I remember reading Bret Hart's book and him talking about this Stampede.
It's a festival in Canada.
And I was like, how the fuck are all these cowboys Canadian?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember Canadian cowboys.
Alberta is the Texas of Canada.
Yeah, like Bret Hart was going to be a cowboy in WWF.
Yeah.
Like they were going to give him a horse and everything.
Yeah. Well, if you were ever in Calgary, you'd understand. Like,
is Bret Hart as big as we all think Bret Hart is in Calgary?
Yes.
Yeah?
110%. 110%.
Okay.
Everybody knows who Bret Hart is. Everybody knows.
Is he a Canadian hero?
Yes, 110%.
Should he have dropped the belt to Shawn?
I still believe so, yeah.
Yeah, he should have. See it, he's wearing a Bret Hart top.
Yeah. And I know Shawn Michaels was my hero. Like, you know, that kind of way. Like, my first memory of wrestling was the Iron Man match at WrestleMania 12.
12, yeah.
So what I did was I set my alarm. I woke up and I turned it on because thankfully I had Sky Sports at the time. And I'll tell you the funny story. So I actually watched the full 60 minutes on mute in 1996.
Because you didn't want to wake up the parents.
Exactly. Right? And you know what the worst thing about it is?
What?
Because I didn't have any volume, I turned it off when I thought it went...
It went to a draw!
I didn't know. Yeah, I turned it off. So I went into school the next day telling everyone, Brett retained. Because the last image I have was Brett walking backstage. And you know, he's taking down the straps. And I was like,
this is bullshit!
Yeah, I was like, I can't believe Shawn didn't get there. And next thing I think it was the Friday, because Raw was on the Friday. I was like, everything was after change. I was like, Shawn's the champ. Brett is... Shawn was the champ. I was like, what is going on here? This didn't happen.
Did I die in this a week of wrestling?
So, you know, that was one of the earliest memories of wrestling for me was that, and it always stuck with me, like, you know, and it was just so funny the way it happened, like, you know, that I literally turned it off at that moment. And just before Gorilla came in, I was like, sudden death.
And now you're in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Now I'm in Calgary, and I'm like,
fucking Stu Hart stretching you.
How will I get involved with the Hearts?
Let me show you a hold, kid.
Yeah.
So you're in RCW.
In RCW.
How long does this Canadian adventure last?
Nearly 3 years.
What are the Canadians working like in comparison to the Irish in terms of like training wise? What were these guys?
There was no training. You see, Lance...
Is this Bush League stuff as well? Would Justy call this Bush League?
Yes and no. At the time when I was going there, like RCW was set up in like 2002, but it was very like, it kind of had a little bit of heat where I you know, without getting into too much of it, you know, but like it was a little bit like...
Get into it. Get into it. Like,
there was better promotions out there, put it that way.
Like WWE.
Yeah. But there was better promotions. And you see, the thing with Calgary was Lance Storm School was there in Calgary. So out of respect for Lance, nobody was kind of setting up wrestling schools.
And these guys did.
No, this wasn't a wrestling school, it was a promotion.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So I wasn't really training in Canada. I was just doing shows.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of way. So when I first went there during the Stampede, I think there was like 10 people in the crowd. So I was like, and at the same time, I was like, oh, do I really want to be doing this? You know? And what happened was
I brought the gear all the way.
Yeah, but no, I had the match. This was in.
You didn't have to declare the gear or anything, did you?
No. I was lucky that way. But I know, you see, I had a work visa anyway.
Yeah. I was just thinking. It would have been okay. Hero had to do it.
Yeah. That was in Australia, wasn't it? Yeah. They're a lot more stricter there though. But I had a 2-year work visa, so I was okay, like, you know. But I actually quit wrestling again after that show, and I went big on the party. And then it was only in November later that year, so I went from July, August, September, October, so it was 3 months partying in Canada. You know, I was like, look, fuck the wrestling, I'm not doing it now.
Are you body-wise, are you getting out of shape, like?
No, geez, I'm probably in better shape because I'm working so hard.
Yeah.
You know, and I found a good gym there, and nothing to do with that.
Would you say that you can be obsessive in terms of because, like, you know, when you get invested in something, you're giving it everything, you're giving 100%, and then once maybe you find a new thing to kind of give your time into, so it's parties, and then you go back to the wrestling, and then you give it 110%. Is there an obsession kind of thing there? Yeah,
it's kind of like you get the fire lit again.
Yeah,
you know, that kind of way. And when I went back in November, I decided to change the gimmick, just completely change everything. Like, I was doing the Messiah, and the only reason I went from the Messiah, Xavier Burns, to the Irish hooligan, Darren Burns, was it was a lazy decision. I was like, look, people probably won't get the whole Messiah gimmick. You know, that kind of way, like the Messiah gimmick in CCW, and that, like, to me, it was like an egotistical little coward. You know, and I love playing that character. So I was like, well, like, I can still do that as the Irish hooligan, but just bring a can of Guinness and a Hurley to the ring. I can be a little scummy hooligan who's still a little bit of an egotistical coward.
And, like, you know, that immediately translates.
Exactly, it's Canadians. You know, that kind of way.
They're like, oh, this the Irish guy.
Yeah.
Hey.
So, and then it just things to start, you know, steamrolling from there.
Were you enjoying it?
Yes, big time.
And who are the people that you were working with? Are they bringing in ex-WWE guys, or is it all local stuff?
It's mostly local guys, but then, like, they were trying to bring in some guys. Like, I was there tonight, Jeff Jarrett came in.
He came into RCW?
Yeah, and remember, you heard about all that controversy with Jeff Jarrett, where he showed up in RCW, and he showed up drunk, and then he got fired from TNA after that. And that actually led, then he went into rehab after that.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it an RCW show?
That was an RCW show, yeah. I was on it. Like, I was on just 2 matches before him. And, like, at the time, a lot of people were messaging me going, what's the story? And I told nobody, because it's none of my business.
Is there many people there?
Oh, yeah, it was a pretty packed show, like, you know, that kind of way. But, like, I think...
When's this?
This is now 2017.
So he had, like, Global Force Wrestling on the go.
And he was still kind of involved with TNA as well. But look, he had some personal issues, and I think he had a few drinks that day, and, you know, he was supposed to do 2 shows. He was supposed to do Calgary and Edmonton, and he came into Calgary, and then he went home that night instead of travelling to Edmonton and doing the show the next night. And I think the promoter at the time, RCW, decided to go public with it and kind of bury him, and it blew up on all the dirt sheets and all that, you know. And that's why
they depending on if his deposit was paid back or anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't even get involved, you know, that kind of way. To me, Jeff was a nice guy. Yeah, he had a few drinks in him, but he was fine. Like, there was nothing. I was
drinking with him. You know, it was good.
No, we didn't have a drink together.
It was great.
Yeah, but yeah, like, there was that, and then Virgil came in one time, and I actually had a match with Virgil. That was a great experience.
Unreal.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Like, prior to the match,
what was it like? Because, like, everyone has this perception of Virgil, and, like, even when he died, he was still working everybody because of
his age.
He was 10 years older than what he said he was. What is he actually like? Is he a bit of a strange cat?
He's strange but interesting and a fun guy to be around. Like,
nice.
You know,
okay.
You know, when he was telling stories, he's just very. Did
he charge you for the stories he was telling?
No, he's not even like that. Like, you know, but he's just. I think that was all kind of a work
gimmick.
Yeah, you know, that kind of was all kind of a gimmicky thing. Like, now maybe it wasn't, but my experience of him, just a really nice guy. And even when we got to have the match together, like, you know, like, he. I remember prior to it, we did a promo. I remember he was like, "I'm gonna rape your white ass." I was like, I can't believe he just said that. Like, this is a family show. So it was ended up being a 3-on-3. And you know, I got to be the one to take the $1 million dream and take the money in the mouth. And then literally, he took
the money back.
Yeah, straight away, back in his pocket, like, you know. And I couldn't hold. I was like laughing on the ground. Going,
did he take was he wearing the old kind of Virgil pinstripe stuff?
No, he was literally wearing. I think he had wrestling boots on, but he was wearing tracksuit pants and a kind of an LVF NWO style t-shirt. You know, that kind of way.
So are you just wrestling with RCW then?
Yeah, so what happened then, I got started getting a few other shows because I was kind of doing a bit, you know, that kind of probably getting a little bit of attention over there. So I actually was working then. I got to work for another promotion called Canadian Wrestling Coalition. That was a really cool experience because they went above and beyond with
CWQ.
No, they were
CWC Coalition. Why am I spelling coalition with a Q?
They were in a place called Red Deer, which is in between Edmonton and Calgary. So I did one show with them. That was really cool because they really put a lot of effort into their production. The ring was really cool. And then I went to Saskatchewan, I think it was Regina, and then I did a show there for.
So you had the bug again though. That you're traveling around. Did you ever think about signing up with Lance Storm School? Too expensive, maybe?
No. The only reason I didn't sign up, and I would have loved to, I was working a full-time job.
Yeah, of course.
I like Monday to Friday, I was a high-rise window cleaner. And it's a really physically demanding job.
I can imagine.
And it was tough, and you have to use your head all the time. You have to be careful.
Shitless.
Yeah, there was times where you kind of go, I've had a few little close calls at the time, and I was like, Jesus, what am I doing up here? Like, you know, I'm out of me depth altogether.
So what happens then? Your Canadian adventure ends, the work visa finishes, and
so what happened was, it was horrible because I had planned on permanently moving there.
Yeah.
Because I was after building up a better life for myself in those few years than I had my entire life in Ireland.
Yeah.
So the company I was working for, GDI, they were going to sponsor me. So it's called a Labour Market Impact Assessment Visa. So basically this visa says that, look, Canadians won't do it, so we have to hire someone from a different country to come in to do this job. So there's a lot of paperwork involved. So they have to advertise this job for maybe, I think it's like 3 months, you know, and then nobody's suitable. So they have to show the proof to the government that, look, we can't get a Canadian
to do it.
Yeah, so we're gonna. And the thing about it is, they were doing this for like 10 years. They were doing this with other Irish guys. I was working with other Irish guys over there who had their permanent residency. So I was like,
Irish lads just delighted. I've never been on a building more than 4 stories. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
high rise. Yeah, 4 stories, no problem.
More like 50 stories, you know. So I was in my head
bigger than the cathedral back home.
But in my head, I was guaranteed to be staying there. Like,
So what happened? Some fucking Canadian wanted to get a job there?
No. It was just all pure bad luck. So what happens is you have to send off the Labour Market Impact Assessment Visa separately to your work extension visa. So what happens is so this is all the technicality side of it. So when they reviewed my visa, the LMAI wasn't approved yet, so they actually just cancel it. So they're supposed to one of them is supposed to go through first, and then the other one, and then they kind of connect up together, and you get approved. And that didn't happen. So I was told that I had 90 days to leave the country, or you'll be forcibly removed.
Did you fulfill your date?
I did. I left after I did an extra month because I was thinking, right, well, I'll just go home while we reapply for this visa, and I'll get a job back home because I can't work in Canada now. So
did you go out on your back though? Did you take the pin?
Did
you leave the town in the right way, Brett?
Yes, I did. I even dropped it.
Did you leave it?
I dropped the belt.
He dropped the belt.
I dropped the belt in Edmonton.
Dropped the belt in RCW. And Brett, you couldn't fucking drop the belt to Sean. And he's your biggest fan.
Well, no, I was a Shawn Michaels guy. He's
your biggest fan, Brett.
The older I get, I actually kind of lean towards Brett now and go.
Of course you do.
You know,
he wasn't the flashier one. So when you're younger, you're drawn to if you were to ask who's your favourite Hardy Boy, it's always going to be Jeff.
Yeah.
No one's ever saying Matt. I'm sorry, Matt. No one.
And if you do say it, you're lying.
You're lying. Yeah. You know, Matt V1, maybe he had a chance to get, and then no.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
But it was always going to be Jeff Hardy because why? He was the young guy. When we were young guys, he was just doing all the mad shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so you come back here, you get back into wrestling. You dropped the belt over there.
Yeah. So
any other cool stories from Canada working wise?
Oh yeah, loads. Like I said, I used to treat it so when I used to work Monday to Friday, most of our shows in Calgary were on Friday night. So I'd go home, get changed, get ready, and then I'm down.
Is it every Friday? Because in Ireland we have that once a month.
Yeah, so this was kind of once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, so it was a lot more regular.
I'd love to those tours. I know American Wrestling Rampage used to do the tours. You said you did a tour of Cork. IWW used to do tours of little towns all the time.
That's what we used to do.
But the massive venue crisis here in Ireland.
So yeah. So it's
no
just
one wants to do shore places.
Yeah, and that's what when we used to bring in talent, that's what we do. We'd go to like Edmonton, Calgary, and then we'd go to these little crazy small towns like Strathmore, Alberta. you'd never even heard of it before.
How dare you? I've heard of Strathmore.
Yeah, you know, that kind of way. So I loved it. So you'd be it could be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 nights. And I'd be still trying to fit in work and still do all this as well.
Yeah.
So like once I finish work, I'd be absolutely gasping. Yeah. So I'd go have my match and then I'm on the fucking session. Yeah. That kind of way. And that's the way I kind of treated my time there.
Yeah, well, you had fun,
it was a
man.
hobby.
So did you come back to Ireland and did you start wrestling again?
So yeah, like when I came back to Ireland, I thought that it was only going to be for a couple of weeks.
Because I'm going back to Canada.
Yeah, I'm going back to Canada. So yeah, I did one show in Waterford. And I
think
who? No, this was it. That the Cork promotion, Phoenix.
So yeah, Phoenix rose from the CCW ashes.
Yes.
You did one show there as Xavier Burns, or
no? I did the Irish hooligan, Darren Burns, because like at the time I was like, I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to keep the same character.
Did you get new gear for Darren Burns?
Oh yeah, Jesus, yeah. I had loads of new gear for Darren Burns.
Cool.
Like, you can't. I couldn't justify wearing the Xavier Burns gear, like
that
kind of way. But yeah, so I came back here then, and like. I was in a bad place at the time as well because I just didn't want to be in Ireland.
Yeah.
You know, I was happy enough. And at the time as well, I was paying rent and bills in Canada. And then when I was back in Ireland, I was paying rent and bills in Ireland.
Did you get yourself back into the kind of the drinking side of things?
Yeah, I did, yeah, because I was back to where I wanted to leave because I was back working minimum wage jobs. And then I was like trying to keep rent going in Canada and in Ireland, and at the time I wasn't really getting much of a response from the company that was supposed to be sponsoring me. They were kind of ghosting me a little bit. I was like, what's going on? Like, is there any updates on this? You know, like I'm fucking struggling financially here, and fucking my head is wrecked. I want to get out of here.
I need my job back.
Yeah, I need my job back, and I want to get back to my apartment that I've been paying rent for. You know, that kind of way. So that went on for fucking 6 months, where I finally got a response and was like, look, it's still nothing's happening. You know, so and then kind of COVID hit, and
shit,
yeah. So
then that just fucking went on the swanny, I'd imagine.
Yeah, everything just kind of blew up, you know, that kind of way. And I was just like, oh, look, it looks like I'm staying here. And at the time, my dad was talking about retiring. He was a taxi driver, so I was thinking, right, at least I have Plan B, so at least I can take that over.
Well, that's good that you were able to, because like a lot of the time you can turn it into a massive disaster.
Well, it was for me.
Yeah,
it took me about a year, if not longer, to kind of accept it.
Have you accepted it now?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, and even looking back now, I don't think I could go back and do the high-rise window cleaning.
Yeah,
like I just don't think I'd be, you know, I wouldn't
anything
have the head
over
for
4
it.
stories is mental, man. Anything over 4 stories.
I was doing 45, like, you know, that kind of way. It was crazy.
Nuts.
Yeah.
See the size of the buildings over there.
Yeah,
fucking mad.
And some of them, they're built in such a way where the architects are not thinking of how are the window cleaners or the caulkers going to get.
How is this? How are we going to clean this fucking huge thing?
Oh, it was crazy.
Tom Cruise can't climb every fucking building.
And then, you know, I had a few close calls as well, like, you know, like tornado warnings, and then there was another time where, you know, and there was another time then where it was the wildfire smoke, and it was so bad that you literally can't see in front of you. It was just orange.
What's the fucking point in cleaning the window during fucking all the smoke on it?
Yeah, you know.
Do it after the fucking wildfire, boys.
So
how does do you come back? You wrestle the one show
in Waterford.
That's not your last match ever, though, is it?
No. So what happens is
where does Mexico come into this equation?
Yeah, this is kind of how it happened. So Mexico actually began in Canada. So in around...
Now there's a history fact for you folks. Mexico began in Canada.
The idea for going to
America
Mexico
just kept taking over and over and over and over. We're like, we'll give them this part.
So this is actually
Mexico was all of that.
So I was still wrestling with RCW at the time, and I just randomly saw a poster for a thing called Mexifest that was going to be happening in Calgary in July of that year, and I just went, what's going on there? And there was a picture of a luchador on it. I was like, that's interesting.
I'm a luchador.
So I got in contact with the promoters of Mexifest, and I was asking questions like, are you doing wrestling? Like? And they were like, oh yeah, we're bringing up luchadors from Mexico. And I was like, oh. So I actually went and met the guy for a coffee, and I said nothing to nobody. It was just, and he was like, well, who are you? Like, I was like, look, I do a bit of local wrestling here with the local promotion. And he was like, oh, he goes, look, and I was trying to like say, look, any chance we can get on the show, like, you know? And he was kind of saying like, look, he was after buying his own ring from Toronto, and that was coming from Toronto to Calgary for the show, and he was bringing up like 6 or 7 luchadors from Mexico. And but we just kept in contact, and then there was one day he texted me and he was like, hey, got a bit of a problem. What's that? The ring won't be here in time. I was like, I can get you a ring.
Nice.
But any chance you book us? So I kind of had him, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
So I contacted the promoter, Stephen of RCW. I was like, hey, got an opportunity there. There's a guy who wants to do this wrestling show. So did the show. It was probably one of the coolest shows, but it was the biggest crowd I ever wrestled in front of. It was like, I was 2,500, 3,000.
In Canada?
No, yeah, in Canada at the Mexi Fest. But see, the Mexi Fest, it wasn't just wrestling. So there was like a stage and the wrestling ring beside it, but it was all Mexican culture.
Yeah, you go see this, and then you go see that, and then there's the wrestling, and then you go see that.
So like the shows were on a certain, like there might be a show at 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
Did you do a few shows that day?
We did 2, I think, because at the beginning I don't think they wanted the RCW wrestlers and the luchadors mixing, so they kind of gave us our own. But what happened was the luchadors,
because like the Mexican way of wrestling, Lucha Libre, they all wrestle on the opposite.
The left, yeah.
So like when you're getting up off your back,
you're going the opposite way.
Yeah, everyone gets up on the right.
Yeah.
But in Mexico they get up on their left.
Yeah.
When you're locking up, it's like that.
Yeah.
So everything is complete. So I can understand why they didn't want the people mixing.
But like what happened was then anyway, so the luchadors that were there, really nice guys, but no word of English. But we still had a good connection backstage.
I don't
and all that.
understand how this happens.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's all just by chance and stuff like that.
No, but how wrestling happens when you have that immediate change between the right and left and the language barrier.
Yeah.
How do you construct a match? How do you call shit in the ring?
Yeah. Well,
I know, like there's
body language for the most of it, like, you know, that kind of way. And obviously the more experienced you are and the better you are in the ring, well then you don't even have to speak a word of English. You know, that kind of way, because you
really though?
Yeah, you wouldn't, like, you could just feel it all out there, like. And like you see it a lot, like, and that's why I was, when I was working, we actually had one match with the luchadors at the very beginning. So it was like Team Canada versus Team Mexico, and I was on Team Canada, and you know, we got in there and like we just worked, you know, that kind of, it was nothing too crazy, and you know, that kind of way. So, and that was it, like.
But like, you know, when they're doing a hip toss, are they doing it with their left arm?
Yeah, they would have been. Yeah.
But like to know, because instinctively you're going to go with
the other side, because that's what you're used to.
You're going to go like that.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, if they're doing a scoop slam, are they picking you up like this, or are they picking you up? I can't even do it like.
No, I think with a scoop slam, I think it'd be the other way. I think you just kind of work from the left. You know, that kind of way.
So when you're taking your hand to run the ropes,
yes, the other side.
They take the right hand.
Yeah.
You mad, boys? Why are you doing that? You're confusing me now, and I'm only talking to him. Fuck's sake. So you end up on this show. How do you end up going south?
So what happens is there was me and another guy, Sweet Daddy Soul is his wrestling name, a Canadian guy, and so the Mexicans kind of invited us down after that weekend. They were like, look, you should come down, and you know, we'll set you up with some shows down here, and I ended up, you know, at the time, this was just before I had to leave, so I got told I had 90 days to leave Canada in October.
Fuck you, I'm going to Mexico.
No, it didn't actually work like that at all. Like, I just thought, look, I kiboshed the whole thing. I was like, look, it's not happening. I'm not going to Mexico. That was a pipe dream. But the guy, Jeremy, Sweet Daddy Soul, he went for it. He just went, yeah, I'm going anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like during COVID, he went down there. And during COVID, then it was just, I think it was in 2021, we started talking again, because I didn't talk to him in a while, because I was just kind of, I was happy for him, but at the same time I was kind of like, oh, I'm so jealous, like I should be there, you know, because if I got to stay in Canada, it probably would have happened anyway.
You could have travelled together.
That was the plan, you know, and he was doing really, really well. He was getting booked like with like, you know, prominent promotions, and he was getting trained by legendary professors. They're called. They're not called trainers in Mexico. They're called professors.
Wow.
The likes of, did you ever hear of Skyday?
Who?
Skyday?
No.
So he was actually the guy who trained Jack Black for Lucha.
Natural Libre.
Yeah. He's like a Mexican wrestling legend. Ricky Marvin.
Yeah.
Ricky Marvin trained Sweet Daddy Soul as well. So he was in with all this, and he was giving it 110%.
I'm going to start calling Paddy Morrow the professor now.
The professor. Yeah.
Oh man, Paddy Morrow's.
I think he's the greatest wrestler on Irish soil that has never, you know, got signed.
Or just in general.
In general, yeah.
A few people would say that.
Yeah.
Man, and as a teacher, just...
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've never really got to have any classes with him. Yet.
This is what this is about. Right, so you're like Sweet Daddy Soul, he's in Mexico.
He's in Mexico.
What's he doing now?
I think he's still in Mexico.
He goes by the name of Omas.
Yeah. And the rest is history.
I said Omas because you said 5'5", and then Omas is probably the biggest guy that I know.
Yeah, like 8 foot.
Yeah.
But, you know, I messaged him and I just kind of said, hey, look, you know, if I got over, there's any chance you could, you know, help me out, and I've, you know, did some training. And I said, look, I don't expect to get on shows or anything. But during COVID, I just had such a bad time during COVID. My brother passed, and it was kind of like tragically, you know, that kind of way. Okay. So, like, he died. He actually ended up falling on his guitar. and it fucking burst his splenic vein, and he bled internally, and he was kind of dead, you know, kind of immediately. And it was a big thing because it, like, you know, he was only 35 years of age, and he had his whole life ahead of him. So that hit me a lot. And then during COVID as well, so we were in this lockdown and dealing with this as a family.
You lost Canada.
Yeah.
You lost your brother.
Yeah.
You're back home in the place that you didn't want to be.
Yeah, yeah. So it was tough, like, you know, that kind of way. So
I'm sorry to hear that, bro.
yeah, it was shitty, like, you know, but you know, and that's why I kind of said to myself, I want to get back wrestling because I want to just do something. So it was around August 2020, where, you know, like all the government restrictions, like, okay, we'll open this and you have to do training in like pods and spaces. And it was just this big mess of a situation where like nobody knew what the fuck, what they were doing.
Yeah.
So back again, Phoenix were after getting this really nice facility down in Cork, massive place, really nice. And I decided, look, because I had my last match, when was it? It was, so I forgot to tell you this story. So in 2019, the lads kind of gave me an opportunity to kind of reinvent myself, and, you know, they were going to give me the ball and it was up to me to run with it.
This is in Phoenix?
In Phoenix. So after the last match I had in December, I didn't do anything until about April or May, and then I started training again. And I had a tag team match, and then I was going into a program with Justy, who, you know, I had so much respect for Justy.
Justy's the man.
The man. Like, and then what happened was, I think this is still to this day, this was kind of the end of wrestling for me. I had the match with Justy, missed the spot, and I didn't know it at the time, but I actually had an anxiety attack right there in the middle of the ring. So the spot was, Liam Royal was...
Oh, man. The fact that Liam Royal if I was booking a promotion, Liam Royal would be my Mike Awesome.
Yeah, he is so good.
And he was so nice when I met him backstage at Fight Factory when I was doing a bit of announcing as well. Shame that he's not involved in wrestling, but
he was so good.
Fucking unit of a guy.
But him and Justy were kind of a tag team. Not a tag team, but they were kind of in a faction, I think, the two of them. And I was having this kind of feud with Justy, and so the match was a say my name match. I didn't really understand. It was like an I quit
match, right? You were to acknowledge
the other person.
Yeah, before Roman did it.
So, yeah, exactly. And so, you know, the spot where like Liam Royal gets caught cheating, and then Foxy is gonna throw him out, and he does that.
You're out of here.
And I just completely forgot that our Foxy was doing that, and that was happening, and I just ran straight into Justy trying to get into the next spot.
Yeah.
And then I kind of blacked out. I couldn't communicate.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of way. So, like, I still don't even remember what happened in the match, but I just remember like getting chewed alive in the ring. And even Foxy saying, like, Justy wants to talk to you, you know, and I just couldn't communicate with Foxy. I was completely, and it never happened to me before, and it never happened again. And it fucked me up so much that I even went to the doctor and I was like, what happened that day? Like, and he was like, it sounds like a full-on anxiety attack. That's what I said. I explained everything to him, how it happened. And like, when I got backstage, I was kind of chewed out going, look, I think this is because you're not training or this, that, and the other. But like, I should have been able to get through that match, like, you know. And at the time, prior to this...
Is there a semblance of truth, though, to the fact that you weren't training?
No, because I was doing a bit of training, but it's not even that, because... You know, I should still be able to get through that match regardless, even just with you know, because I've had like 100 matches prior to this. You know, so that wasn't it. And prior to that, I was probably in the best cardiovascular shape I've ever been in, because I was training.
So it was a mental thing.
It was a mental thing, yeah, mental thing. And I've put myself under a lot of pressure because I had so much respect for Justy. Like, to me, he was like he's an Irish wrestling legend. So I didn't want to leave him down. And I did, you know, that kind of way. I had this absolute stinker, and he explained to me afterwards, like, I came down to Cork and I want to just have a good match. It's simple as that, like, you know. And I was like, yeah, look, I understand it, but I never recovered from that, realistically.
And did you go to Mexico after that?
Yeah. So what happened was I quit wrestling after that, and I was like, look, I'm done. It's time to I'm going to stop embarrassing myself. You know, that's the way I was looking at it.
And those moments are fairly deep.
Yeah.
And you have to go to the pit of your fucking stomach and be able to admit something, not even admit something, but say something that you don't want to say.
Yeah. And
that's hard.
Yeah, it was another hard pill to swallow, along with the Canadian thing. This is in 2019, and then I decided to give it one last chance a month later, because, like, you know, like, if people were on to me, like, you know, don't quit because of that. Like, so everybody
is this Phoenix? This is before the pandemic, is it?
Before the pandemic, yeah. So I was.
And you're back from Canada then?
Back waiting to go back. So this is all happening at the time. And
then the pandemic hits, and then the Canadian dream.
But even like the last straw for me at that stage was I got in the car to go back training down to Cork like a month later after the match happened, and as I was driving to Cork, brake failure on my car, and I just went, you know what, that's the gods have
Man,
spoken.
it happened to me 3 times on the motorway up to Fight Factory. Car breaking down. I had to be told. He was like, I can either tow you to training or I can tow you back to Kilkenny. I was like, well, I need to get back to Kilkenny.
Yeah.
3 times my car broke down.
And you'd be thinking then everyone up there now is thinking that I'm bullshitting.
Yeah. I remember driving to do announcing to Fight Factory, right? And the fucking gear stick popped out of the actual and this is in Dublin traffic.
Sounds scary now.
Like the gear, I couldn't put it into gear because it just popped out of whatever contraption it was part of. I have to get out of Dublin traffic. I was wearing flip-flops and I had to push it across. I can remember the church I pushed it into. No one fucking helped. It all keep beeping at me.
Yeah, looking at you.
No one fucking helped.
Yeah.
I had to push the whole car across and was like, what the fuck? Ripped the car apart. Seen it was out of a socket. And then I get there and I'm like, I'm so sorry. My gear stick popped out.
Yeah,
like, okay,
what can you do?
Shane, you need a new car, bro. I was like, I know.
Yeah.
But okay, so Mexico, Sweet Daddy Soul.
Yeah. So Mexico came along.
Or sorry, Phoenix, April. You had that match with Justy. You said people were telling you, no, don't give it up just yet, man.
Yeah, and then I got in the car, brake failure.
Failure.
This is a month later. So I had the match with Justy and say it was July. It was their anniversary show, July 2019. In September, I went to go back, brake failure, and I went, boom, that's me done forever. So I just decided that's it. Everything is done. COVID hit, brother passed, and I just decided then in a year, it was August 2020, I was like, I want to go back wrestling just to do something, get out of the house, get my head somewhere else.
Yeah,
you know,
that's kind of what I'm doing now.
Yeah, you know, that kind of way. So I decided to do that, and what did I do then? It was 2020. Yeah, so I had some matches then, and then
where did you have matches in 2020?
2020, we actually did one kind of COVID show. And I didn't wrestle as myself. That's when I started doing the Skull Collector.
Yeah, the mask.
Yeah, because the way I was looking at it, because right, what I'll do is I'll wrestle under a mask. If I feel comfortable, if I get rid of the ring rest, I can take it off and go back to doing something else, or doing something as me. But that was a way of me just going, I can just I can hide behind this. Yeah, exactly. I can hide behind this, so then, there's more shit with COVID and restrictions come back and vaccine. If you don't, have your vaccine, you can't do this, you can't do that. So I decided then with the gimmick that we were going to do with me under the mask, I was like, right, I'm going to go to Mexico, because I spoke to Sweet Daddy Soul and he told me, yeah, look, come over and come training and see what happens. So it was June 2022. I went to Mexico for 6 weeks, and I had somewhere to stay. I was set up with the training, and it was such a crazy experience. I loved it, but the training, you ever thought the training was going to be tough? There was one guy I have so much respect from, Herodes Jr. His training classes were, you are, like, say you're training for 2 hours, you're not allowed any water and you're not allowed to sit down.
What's the purpose of that? Because
it's like in a match. You can't take a break.
You're not having a fucking 2-hour match, are you?
Well, yeah, that's why the Mexicans are just tanks. Like they have this tank that they can go on forever.
Yeah, but like
it was tough.
Fucking Irish fella, just after coming out with COVID, I've had a few beers. Fucking 2 hours, no water.
Yeah, I did it. Now I vomited in between it, came back up, and I went back into the ring.
You didn't have something to wash your mouth out with?
Nah, just chewing gum. It was tough going, like.
Herodes!
But so yeah, that was grand. But again, I kind of realized during that training session that maybe I don't have the passion anymore. I was kind of thinking to myself, do I want to?
Oh man, of course you're not going to have the fucking passion. 2 hours fucking training, no water, fucking not allowed to sit down.
Yeah, vomiting and feeling.
None is worth this, man.
Yeah, I was like,
I ain't no Navy fucking SEAL. I just want to have a few matches in Waterford. That's it.
Yeah,
that's what I want to do.
It's something really simple.
Why is this so hard?
But I think that if I went over there, if I got to stay in Canada and got to go over there with Sweet Daddy Soul at the time, I think I would have had, that passion.
How many matches did you wrestle in Mexico?
2.
Cool.
So it was really cool. And so what happened was, training away there,
as the hooligan.
Yeah, as the hooligan. And I went to Acapulco. Acapulco. Going loco in Acapulco. So we went there for the weekend anyway.
You went drinking, didn't you?
Yeah, of course.
That's when you said getting lucky in Acapulco. I was like, oh, yeah.
It was just kind of a...
I fucking loved drinking when I was drinking.
Oh, I still do now, And I just love the party aspect of it, But I went down to Acapulco, had a crazy weekend there with him, and literally came home on the Tuesday, yeah, and then Wednesday I got really, really badly sunburnt over there, like sunstroke.
You bumping in that?
Yeah, so what happens is Jeremy, our Sweet Daddy Soul, came into me on the Thursday morning. He goes, you're making your wrestling debut tonight. And I went, and I was sitting there covered in aloe vera, like just in my bedroom going, I can't even move. And you want me
that could be your gimmick. I'm the aloe vera man.
So he was like, look, this is your opportunity if you want to take it. Like it's with IWRG. That was the name of the promotion.
IWRG. Four?
What
are you? What kind of hinky-dink thing is this?
But that was really cool. It was an arena I can't even pronounce it.
Anything with arena in front of it, I'm all for.
Yeah, so it was arena something. But there was the same venue where I think the final scene of Lucha Libre was.
Yeah. Oh man, that's badass.
Yeah. So that was that venue.
We should start calling places arenas over here.
Yeah.
You know,
cool.
Arena Spring Hill Function Room.
Arena Coliseum,
yeah.
But so went ahead and did that, and then it was crazy how this happened. So the match I was going to be in was against 3 guys from Dragon Gate and then 2 other guys from Mexico. So nobody spoke any English.
Oh man,
what am I doing here? And I'm literally like, you know, when you have that sunburn and you're kind of shaking because you're cold, but you know that kind of way. So I was very sunstroked, like you know that kind of way. But luckily there was a guy there.
Those Dragon Gate lads like to kick.
Yes, they do. They sure do. And they were really nice lads, like. But again, you know, not much English. Actually, no English. And luckily there was one of the wrestlers backstage, a Mexican guy who was able to translate
Japanese and English.
Well, he was able to just tell me what the plan was.
Stand here, they're going to kick you.
Yeah, they're going to do this.
Roll
X,
out,
Y, and Z.
get back in, get kicked again.
And the thing about it as well, it's different in Mexico because they do rounds. So it's like, it's all, every match is kind of 2 out of 3 falls.
Okay.
You know, that kind of way.
Not like time limit rounds, just 2 out of 3. Yeah.
You know, that kind of way. So I didn't know any ace. Like, I'm just going in there completely blind, like, you know. And at the time, you see, Sweet Daddy Soul is injured. He's rehabbing from a shoulder injury he had. So he wasn't even on the card. He was in the crowd.
Is that what you got booked, do you think?
Well, no, he got me booked, you know, that kind of way, because he was already working these shows prior to his injury, you know, that kind of way. And it was on YouTube. I think it was on television, because every Thursday night they have the same kind of show. It's like Thursday night shows in this arena, like, you know, that
Thursday Night Justice.
Yeah, that's what it was like. You know, I was thinking about that when I was doing
Justice.
it. Like, from one Thursday Night Justice to
another. No. Thursday Night Vicious. Yeah. Or Psycho Thursday Nights. We'll go to Sid route on them.
But got through it. Didn't do a whole lot. I didn't, you know, I wouldn't go back and go, oh yeah, watch this, because
I would. Go watch it.
No, don't. But yeah, look, I got to do it, and it was really cool. And then I got another opportunity to wrestle in a place called Arena Mamaluchas.
Oh, I love the name.
Yeah, so that was really cool as well. It was me, and then at the time, then I think that was Sweet Daddy Soul's return match as well. It was me, him, and another Canadian guy called Sean Moore. Did you ever hear Sean Moore? I think he was recently on AEW Dark. Phenomenal wrestler, he's like a Kurt Angle, you know,
nice.
that kind of really, really good. So it was the 3 of us against 3 Mexicans, and I enjoyed that match a little bit more. I was a little bit more, because I was in there with the guys.
You're more comfortable.
Yeah, I was a little bit more comfortable. So yeah, technically that was my last match, you know. So, you know,
I fucking want to go out in Arena Mamaluchas.
Arena Mamaluchas, yeah. So yeah, that was it. And when I came home, then I think I did one more Phoenix show, and Phoenix then closed up shop. And
so it wasn't your last match?
Well, technically, when I came back to do the Phoenix show, it was like a 16-man scramble.
Man, if I get a 16-man scramble out of this last man run, I'm putting that down as a match.
But I didn't even bump. I'm
putting it down.
I didn't do anything. That's
like, you know, how many people have you slept with? Oh, I don't really count this person. I didn't bump
I wore protection, so it doesn't count.
It's a half. It's a half on. It's kind because we kind of did. No, I'm putting that scramble match down as a fucking match for me.
Well, that was the last one. That was the last one.
You probably had better experiences.
Yeah, and I kind of knew at that stage then. But what I wanted to do was like when I was in Mexico, I was kind of racking a lot of the older guys' brain about like what should I do. I showed them the mask, I showed them the gimmick, and you know, they were all, and I even brought the mask with me because I was gonna do something with it over there. And like a lot of them were like, this is the coolest mask. I got the mask from Rockwell Masks. Did you ever hear Rockwell Masks? And I spent like €500 on the mask, and the gear I spent was like fucking €350. So I spent a lot of money on this gimmick, and it was just all kiboshed, like, and I was the last one to know about it. You know, so I was kind of disheartened that was the way it kind of ended.
The Phoenix.
Yeah, you know, that kind of way.
Is it Munster stuff that you're interested as opposed to like traveling to Dublin? I suppose you're not interested anymore. Like you're not.
I just feel that now that I'm concentrating more on, like, I'm a taxi driver now. And
could you start to school yourself? Do you reckon?
No. I was never like that kind of mindset. I was never a ring general. You know, that kind of way, never a ring general. I can bump all day for you. You can throw me in the ring. I always kind of call myself I'm a good jobber, a really good jobber. I'd like putting over.
Do you think the Southeast has the rounds for that? You know,
no,
for a school. No?
I don't, to be honest with you. And I think in Waterford, I just think it would flop. That's why, like, a lot of people always said to me over the years, would you not set up a school? I was like, I don't think I'm qualified to be a trainer.
Yeah.
You know, I don't. I'm being honest with you. But I'd never go and do something I don't think I'm qualified to do.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, I just wouldn't do it. And as well as it's a massive financial risk.
But look what Black Norton did.
Yeah, you know, and
But he probably thought he was qualified. I don't know the guy. I'm just going by like what was said in books. And
I met him a few times as well, and you know, I didn't want to be associated. I was happy enough with like staying with Ross, or I did text Phil at one stage and I was like, hey, look, can I train with you know, while whatever's going on in the Cork is sorted out, like, you know? Was, come up, like, you know, it's no problem.
Yeah, no, they're really cool.
Yeah.
The other reason why I'm not in Fight Factory is because like the M50 is a nightmare. The M50 is a nightmare getting up to Eastwall.
You know, if there was a school
plus School of Irish Wrestling is really good as well. Like, we're very fucking lucky to have those schools, particularly as close to they are to me. Like School of Irish Wrestling's in less than an hour away. Fight Factory is about an hour and a half away, hour 40, depending on the M50. So it's really lucky to have those within somewhat of a close vicinity. Yeah. I know that there's the Hard Knock School now in Limerick.
Yeah, that's right. And I think Martin Steers is the head trainer there. So, you know, that guy's a legend. Like, you know, he's so good as well. Like,
unbelievable.
You know, and like I actually did do a little bit of training with Hard Knocks after Phoenix went down, and I was with myself and Leon Sheehan, and we were going up, and he was driving because I was just so burned out. I was like, I don't want to be driving like in 2 hours up to Limerick, and they're bad roads as well.
Yeah, driving is what kills me.
Yeah, me too. You know, it's the travelling of it, like, and it just
especially when your job's fucking driving too.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I was trying to explain to people. Like, once I'm not working, I don't want to be driving.
Yeah,
you know.
So are you done now?
Yeah, I am.
100%.
Yeah.
What age are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 35.
35. I'm 34. You can't be dragged back in. You're not looking at me going, oh, Shane's up there training. You know what?
Oh yeah, I am. And like,
I can bump better than that.
If someone asks me what's your biggest achievement in wrestling, I'll always say I've never ever
Arena Mamaluchas.
Well, yeah, that too. But I've never got hurt, and I never hurt someone else.
Yeah,
never in all the years I've been doing it. I never got hurt.
Oh, I'm getting hurt so bad.
I think I was just like, I don't even know. I think I was just lucky over the years. You know? Now I don't count like I've had lots.
No, I've had
cuts and bruises.
I've had one bad injury, and it was my groin, and I was out for about 5 weeks. But I got straight back in there because it would have been easy to be like, no, but I'm fucking loving it. Yeah, it's class.
Yeah,
it's so fun, and it's really fun being able to travel up with people.
Yeah,
and been like, oh, nice one. There's a guy from Kilkenny, Luke. He's going to be class, and he's coming up from Kilkenny, and then there's Tommy who's coming up from Carlow, and you know you're meeting Nathan who's coming up from.
And they're all starting at the same time. So
no, they're all a bit ahead of me. But I'm just enjoying the chats about wrestling in the fucking car, and then because I have this place here, you know, we can shoot some cool stuff.
Yeah,
and, you have the radio stuff. You can try and help in that way, and you know, and I have a bit of not wrestling experience, but experience in like entertainment.
Yeah, and that goes a long way. Like,
I can chat about that, and maybe I can add value to what they're doing, but they can certainly add value to what I'm doing.
But even that promo you put up, like, you know, recently, that's unbelievably good,
and that's because of age,
your background as well, and you know how to do these things, and
exactly. And then I'm telling Les, look, like, I'm not fucking trying to be like a WWE champion here. I'm just trying to be involved. But
it's like we were talking about earlier. It's investing in yourself, and you don't want to put out a bad product of yourself. You don't want to put out a bad version of yourself. So everything you do, you want to make it the best you can make it.
Like, throw me in a ring and I'll take a super kick 1, 2, 3 every fucking night.
Yeah, that's the easy part.
You know what I mean? I just really like wrestling. I love the creative side of wrestling. I'd love to be able to somehow get into that, or commentary in wrestling. Like that'd be, I just want to be involved, man. And I'm really liking it. And everyone has been really sound, and I've, you know, the preconceived notions that you might have about it It's all in your head.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But even like when I went back, or not went back, but after Mexico, when I went to Hard Knocks, and I just decided then, I was like, okay, I'm just going to maybe finish up with the wrestling side of things, but I still want to stay involved. So Steve Savage, he was a legend. I love Steve. He kind of said to me, look, you can still be involved in the show. We can use you as a referee. So I decided, I did 2 shows as the referee. But what happened was the shows were on a Sunday. And then I was saying to myself, by me going down to these shows on Sunday, I'm kind of losing out on a nice few bob in my job. Sunday's a good day to work as a taxi driver.
Okay, so you're being realistic about it.
Being realistic about it. I was like, you know what? I've done it. I've spent all the money on it. Now it's time to make some money and, move on with my life.
Are you going to sell your gear?
No, Jesus, no.
And
why would I sell it? It's all custom. My name is on all of it.
And your booking information is? Darren, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming down and chatting with us. It's been really interesting. It's the first time we've kind of done an interview-based thing on the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show. I really think it's been fun. It's been cool kind of reminiscing and hearing some names that don't really get chatted about, but are definitely part of Irish history.
Yeah, exactly.
Like yourself.
Yeah.
Hearing his name was pretty Ricky Combat, L.A. Warren, just being able to remember the people that have done this or are continuing to do this.
Yeah.
Now.
Or you might see them come back again, Yeah,
you never know. Paddy Morrow needs to get back in that ring, right? I know he had a retirement angle and all that, but Paddy Morrow is...
If Paddy Morrow got back in the ring, I'd probably go back training because he's the dream match.
No, Paddy. Now, Paddy, if you're watching, and I'll know if he's watching because I'm going to say, when I'm at training, just say, I seen that. You don't even have to say anything to me, just go, seen that. And then we can start getting feuds percolating on this Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show. Yeah. Well, thanks very much for listening. Don't forget to and subscribe. This is Darren, and you can follow Darren on social media. We'll tag you in stuff. You don't even care anymore.
No, I'm
finished. You need a taxi, Darren's your man.
Give me a shout.
Yeah. Stay safe, stay sane.